Chapter 34. The Gentle Goodbye, An Appeal, The Gym Gods, and My First Competition. Wisdom is knowing how little we know. Socrates. We are now in August 2019, and I had booked a quick visit for Elliot and me to go to the UK. Harvey was holding the fort and taking care of the animals. We stayed with Kay and Dembo and also with Susan. The time went so quick and we were very well looked after. I even got to train at my old gym in Aubrey. The main reason for the visit was to go and see my mum and dad, and Elliot to go and see his grandma and granddad. They had always been around for him in his earlier years, along with Harvey and their cousins Darby and Georgina. When we moved to live in France, they could not see them as much. Both Harvey and Elliot loved them dearly and got so much love and guidance from them. The Tank often having them both on his knee reading Thomas the Tank Engine, or whichever other enchanting book he would have them spellbound with, as they received their bedtime story. Grandparenthood came so natural to my mum and dad, and all four grandchildren were blessed with the love of two amazing grandparents. I warned Elliot that Grandma was not well and dying, but Elliot had just been through a major trauma in his life, as had Harvey. Seeing their mum become handicapped and going through a very dark and painful time, which they had to witness, then his father leaving in March 2018 with no knowledge of his whereabouts. This kid was much stronger than I thought. He made his grandma laugh even as she lay there dying. My mum had cancer. Back in the 1980s she had battled through breast cancer. I remember coming to see her from Liverpool University. She had taken herself away in her bedroom with a portable TV, just getting up to go to work. My brother, sister and dad were at home then, and I asked if they knew what was wrong with Mum. They didn't know. I said, "Has anyone bothered to ask her?" "No," was the reply. I went to talk to Mum and found out she had a lump in her breast. She was terrified to go to the doctors. Probably worried about having to have time off work. I managed to persuade her to go and to get it sorted out. She would be alright, but ignoring it wouldn't be. I had to go back to Liverpool. I had exams. My mum did go and get the operation, but didn't tell me when until after my exams. She was a brave, strong woman, but I wish she and Dad had thought more about themselves as we became adults. But Mum couldn't let go of caring for us. It's all she knew. In the care home, Mum and I had a very loving and deep chat. We had not been speaking at Christmas because of some lies she had told to protect others. Lies at that time were all I got from the court case, Rob, before he left, and I was raw and defensive, and now my mum was barefaced lying to me. But she was sick, even though she hadn't been diagnosed, and I was in a dark place trying to accept all that had just happened to me. She was nasty when she last came with Dad to visit me and the boys in France, and I was nasty back. On the 23rd of August 2019, in my mum's small room in the care home, a place she had been taken after being in hospital for a period of time, we were reconnected in the same loving way we had been for the majority of our lives. Mum had let go of so much pain that she carried around with her, and I had found some light in the darkness I was in. I knew I would not see her again, but the love and peace we gave each other that day was a genuine healing and true love that couldn't and wouldn't be broken even in death. neither of us blaming each other, but embracing the special moment we had, and she promised me that she would let go of all the anger and pain she was burdened with, and peacefully go to the place she had been shown. Going there willingly and not looking back, accepting the loving arms that she could see open and inviting her, allowing herself to go to all the people who were waiting for her. She said there was even the cat Tish and my dog Skippy, with some of the other pets, waiting with her mum and dad and some of her friends. My mum's face full of peace, no pain, and a look in her eyes of brightness and joy, an acceptance it was time, and that it was okay to go. My visit had helped to heal the worries and regrets, and helped the acceptance that her time had come to move on. I knew exactly what she was seeing and feeling. I had experienced it in my accident and in my ICU room. But for me, I was supposed to stay for a bit longer. For Mum, it was time. And now she would not fight it, but embrace it. Since my accident, I have no fear of death, and I have no doubt our souls continue in a place of peace and harmony. I wanted my mum to embrace it and not take with her the fear, anger and burdens that this human life had given her, or the generational pain she also carried for others. By what she said and the look on her face, I believe she did that. When Elliot and I arrived back home, Harvey had done well, and I think enjoyed some time to himself. They were now back at Lycée. It was September. In September, I got the good news that my handisport licence for the 2019 to 2020 season had arrived. Now I could compete in my first powerlifting competition in December. Awesome. Now I needed to focus on my training and just over 3 months to go. Still in September, I arranged for Val Assist to help me with my appeal preparation. I would do the research with the little information I had and prepare my case, and then Val would translate it into French. The very first thing we did was send an email to the court on the 19th of September via Val's email, so she could respond in French, asking for my files. It was short and to the point. Dear Sir, Madam, Walker Penelope Ann, then my case number, is representing herself and requests all documents related to her case to be made available. Thank you. For the rest of the year, I would go every few weeks to work with Val to get my appeal papers ready. She was brilliant. During this time, Val also went with me to the police station in Coulanges to do a preliminary process verbal d'audition victim. Before we went, I prepared what I wanted to say, because it is normal for the police officer to write down your claim and create a plaintiff against X. I wanted to do 2 plaintiffs, one against the story told by X, Harvey Dupont, back on the 5th of April 2016 at Cognac Police Station, and a complaint or plaintiff against how X, the police, had treated me, not recognised my human rights, and the lack of a proper investigation to the cause of the accident. This is what I propose to say. I am present here to depose a plaintiff contract X and all named persons, 26 in total. X gave information which was not true and based on assumptions, not facts. On the 5th of April 2016 at 15:05 hours. X entered the police station in Cognac and told a story that X and the other people named had not witnessed. The story concerned a car accident that happened on the 2nd of April 2016 involving X's parents and myself, Madam Walker, who became the victim of this accident, resulting in multiple injuries, loss of my right hand, and becoming 80% handicapped. X's father, aged 85, the driver, Mrs. Dupont Morris, and X's mother, Madame Dupont, Paulette, also in her 80s, died at the scene. No autopsy was carried out, so to this day the cause of death has not been lawfully established, and there was no blood samples taken, so there is no information to alcohol consumed or drugs in the driver's systems. I, Madam Walker, do not drink alcohol and do not take drugs. There was no investigation of the elderly couple's medication or health, though this was investigated for me, Madam Walker, who was 52 years old, not in her 80s. I would then describe what was said at the Cognac police station and the sentence that Lucas Filipotto gave. I also stated that it was based on assumptions, not fact, and how I had been unjustly treated, and my stress and anxiety, plus the defamation of my character, etc., etc. The second plaintiff against X, police, highlighting the gross misconduct of X, resulting in a biased, assuming, unjust, unlawful and criminal act. X did not act within the law, and this resulted in violation of a person's right to a fair and just criminal procedure. It greatly violated the Human Rights Act, Art 6, 1-3. So you get the picture. I had looked at my rights and I could do a plaintiff complaint, even though time had passed, because I was bringing new discovered information. Bet you can all guess what happened as Val and I stood in the police station in Coulanges. The not-so-friendly police officer said I had no right to make a complaint. I tried to say through Val that I did in fact have a lawful right. Then I got the Superiority Act off him. I have been a police officer for 20 years and I am telling you, you have no right. This was all said at the counter at the reception area. He didn't even take us into a room for privacy or to get the form to start the plaintiff. I had a lawful right to make. His 20 years policing obviously just gave him understanding how to not be a nice person and to throw his weight around while ignoring the actual laws that he was supposed to enforce. We left. This was just another massive kick in my guts. Yet again, administered by the upholders of the scales of justice. I was training once a week in Poitiers, Patrick guiding my benching, and then I would go off and use the other machines and train the rest of my body. I still had the attachment that the Grand Fer had made me, but it wasn't strong or safe enough, as I would hopefully increase the weight load. I had some meetings with Pasquale, the company I met at the Grand Fer, and the one that worked with me to try and get the robotic hand to work, but it was way too early for that. Stubby was weak and skinny, and when Dr. Pichu explained that I would need to chop some of Stubby off to help just get a normal prosthesis, my mind was made up. Stubby and I would find another way to get on with life. Pasquale listened to my goals, probably thought I was crazy, but worked with me to develop a more sturdy attachment for my benching. They knew that I had a competition on the 8th of December, so hopefully it would be ready for then. My hidden gem in Liverpool, Danny from Taylor's Gym, was also sending me training 4 times a week. I had to video it and send it to him. I didn't like being on video, but just got on with it. Now, looking at them, I can see how weak my poor battered body was and how much work it needed. it would be a slow process. Both Danny and Patrick helped me understand the strict movement that had to be done to get a good lift. It wasn't a matter of forcing the bar up with all your might. If you didn't do it according to the rules, it was a no lift. Just an hesitation or a small wobble would give you a no lift. It had to be done correctly. As the time grew closer to my competition date, I discussed the weight I should do for the 3 lifts. The weight decided was 37 kilograms, 40 kilograms and 45 kilograms. Not any amazing weight there, but the competition was more about living it, learning from it and just experiencing it. For me, it was my best teaching experience. I had, way back in the 1980s, entered a bench press competition and got second. But that wasn't a strict powerlifting competition, but more connected to bodybuilding and was organised by Ken Latham at one of his bodybuilding competitions. The discipline I was entering into now was so different, and I had to learn how to lift that way. The tiny matter of only having my left hand to hold the Olympic bar, just adding to the challenge and my desire to find a way for Stubby and his attachment to assist. Just to test my commitment and perseverance, the universe decided to test my desire to get to this competition, which was way up in the north of France at Villeneuve-d'Ascq. With Patrick's help, I had booked my place in the competition and a 2-night stay in a recommended hotel. I didn't know what to expect, but I would arrive on the Friday and all the competitors would have a meal together. The Saturday would be a competition day, and the Saturday evening another meal with the competitors and all those involved, and leaving the hotel on the Sunday. I booked my train and asked if I could take up the offer of someone meeting me at the train station. Then the train drivers or workers went on strike, so all trains were cancelled. But that wasn't going to stop me. I would drive there, but would have to break the journey up. It was too far to do it in one go. I did some research and booked myself into a budget hotel in Rouen, Petite Queville, on the Thursday the 6th, and again on the Sunday the 9th on my way back home. Rouen was more than halfway to Villeneuve-d'Ascq, so that left me around 257 kilometres for tomorrow's journey. The total distance from my house was about 640 kilometres, but I wanted to avoid Paris, so I probably took a longer route. Driving in the middle of Paris was not something I desired to do. I would stay the night in the Ibis Hotel, rested and ready for the next part of the drive. The journey was tiring and difficult, lots of rain, so I was very pleased to get to Rouen about 4.5 hours after setting off. Having lived in Australia, long distance was the norm, but I could have done with less rain. Passing trucks on the auto route was a heart-in-the-mouth experience, for the water sprayed blinded your vision, no matter how fast the wipers were going. I prayed every time I had to overtake one. I concluded the hardest challenge this next few days was not lifting the bar, but getting there in one piece with the weather conditions. I gratefully got there in one piece and searched for the hotel. We had received notification that the hotel in Villeneuve-d'Ascq was next to Lille football stadium, and that weekend there was a home game, so parking would be difficult. I arrived early and found a disabled parking spot close by. I decided I would stay parked there for the 2 days and nights so as not to lose my spot. I had really had enough driving in the last few days, so I wasn't in a rush to drive if I could avoid it. I went to my hotel but got told my room wasn't ready and I needed to wait. No problem, I was early, but at least I was at my destination. Another person arrived and he had to wait also. We got chatting. He was there for the competition too. We waited a long time with no information, and I said, "This isn't right, it's past check-in time. I want to rest," and I was told the hotel lobby seemed quite cold. Eventually I had had enough and said I wanted to get to my room. That's when they told me that the heating had broken and they were trying to get it fixed. To cut a long story short, we were moved to a hotel within walking or wheelchair distance. A lot of the competitors were in wheelchairs. So at last I could rest. We had a meal organised for us and my new friend who spoke some English said I could go in his car. I gratefully accepted, for I was hoping that I wouldn't have to use my own car over the weekend. As with most French meals, it was 4 courses. None of your quick couple of hours. It was the opportunity for people to catch up with friends they hadn't seen for a while. This competition being an annual event. I sat and watched. I was tired from the journey, didn't feel hungry, and was a bit lost. They were all talking so fast. I soaked up the atmosphere. Many there were curious to know who I was. I didn't know anything about them. There were many in wheelchairs and a wide range of ages. They were carers or helpers, coaches, and the judges there too. Halfway through the meal another person arrived. He was friendly and popular, and I remember thinking he looks like a bodybuilder. He had good biceps. I had then, for some unknown reason, thought the English sports car that I had parked behind when I arrived, I noticed the right-hand drive, was his. I don't know why I thought that, but sure enough, after the meal, he drove away in that sports car. My next day, my new friend, who was a judge, offered me a lift to the venue, and I jumped. Well, I can't jump at the chance. There was a lot of setting up to do, a Coupe de France, and many good lifters were there. I watched, listened, and intently observed. There was a buzz, a happiness, a friendliness, non-judgmental atmosphere, and I felt so at home. All these athletes and all the people involved had their stories to tell. My chauffeur had been hit by a truck as a child and all his family in the car had been injured. It was an English company and the driver didn't stay around, so it was a long hard battle for his family to get any closure. He had written a book about it and I was touched and encouraged by his story. There are so many people living a life they thought they would never have to live. And in that room on Saturday the 8th of December 2019, I got the biggest lesson that I had had so far. It was okay to be disabled. It made you special, not different. It made you stronger and much more accepting of the gifts that you had and how far you could work with them. That day I felt I belonged. I wasn't different, except I spoke poor French. I was welcomed and I was accepted and encouraged. Being disabled mattered. We did and do have a place in the non-disabled world. By accepting our disabilities personally, what others' opinions were did not matter. We were able to achieve whatever we set our mind to and were prepared to work for within the bodily limits we were given. I was now shown that this, in the future, was my task, my mission, to help others see their self-worth. No matter what the disability, we are beacons of light that others could learn so much from, including able-bodied people. The competition started. All competitors had to be weighed in and their competition clothes checked. Stubby's adaptation had to be looked at. I still had the old one. There had been delays in getting the new one, but I had trained with the old one, so I was good with it. Because it was my first competition, I wasn't put into a weight class. I weighed in about 54 kilograms, so would have been in the women's under 55 class. I also had to go and tell them what height I needed the bench, so I went and tested it. The bench they use is not the same as the bench used in normal powerlifting. It's wider and there are 2 places to put the bar on for people who have short limbs. In fact, Barbara Mayer, the organiser and director of sports development and musculation of Handisport, asked me if I needed to use it because of my short limb. Then I didn't really know what she meant. I always trained the normal weight, so I said, I will lift normal. Stubby's about 20 centimetres shorter than my left arm, and the guys at Pasquale were making the new attachment so Stubby would be the same length as my left arm. Being a novice in the novice class meant my class would be up first. There was a warm-up area and most athletes had coaches except me, and I didn't see the guy with the English sports car with one either. I went and did some warm-ups and just followed the crowd. I hadn't got a clue what I was supposed to be doing. There were 3 males and 2 females, including me, in the novice class. 2 of the boys were just 14 years old and the other 17. Their lifts were 30 kilograms, 32 kilograms and 34 kilograms for Sukuna, 47 kilograms, 49 kilograms and 50 kilograms for Ben Adji, and first place to Lamadora, who lifted 65 kilograms, 69 kilograms and 73 kilograms at 14 years of age. That was amazing. In my class I was with Kulabali, age 20, who lifted an impressive 53 kilograms, 57 kilograms and 60 kilograms. Me, at 55 years old, lifted 37 kilograms, 40 kilograms and 45 kilograms, which I was over the moon with. With my emergency intestines operation back in July 2018, then my big operation to have my dancing pole out in September, I had only really got training just over 6 months ago. So the purpose of this competition was research and to get started on the competition journey. I was so unsure what to do that in my first lift I get the command to start by the judge sat behind the bar, who happened to be my wonderful new friend, the chauffeur. So I lifted the bar and just held it there. He then had to get up and tell me to press. For some reason I was waiting for another command. When you have raised the bar, the judge then instructs you to rack. This means you put the bar back on the rack. Bit embarrassing. Everyone was watching this one-handed woman make a daft mistake. Now I just had to concentrate on my next lift of 40 kilograms. There was this friendly looking lady in a wheelchair. I hadn't seen her last night at the restaurant. She was watching me and I exchanged a smile and an expression of I haven't a clue what I am doing. She gave me an encouraging smile back. I did my next lift okay, with no daft mistakes this time, and then I was going to go for 45 kilograms. Would I be able to get it? I did my third lift and thought Stubby was a little wobbly, and I did not think I had managed to get a successful third lift, but I had. That was it over, my first competition with Handisport. Now the real competition would start with the experienced athletes. I did get to chat to the female in the wheelchair who had smiled, I said I hadn't got a clue what to do. Her reply was, "I was so shocked you were only lifting with one hand." I found out that this kind, smiling face belonged to Suad, a well-experienced lifter who had been to many Paralympic Games. That day she lifted 120 kilograms. Now that's amazing. Suad was in the under 79 kilogram class. If I had not been a novice, my class would have been the under 55 kilogram class. That day there was an under 50 kilogram class and 3 ladies were competing. The ladies in the under 50 kilogram class lifts were 38 kilograms and 42 kilograms by a young girl called Whitney. One of her lifts was a no lift. Then Martine, who was in her 60s, so I wasn't the oldest competitor. She lifted an impressive 58 kilogram, 61 kilogram, a 63 kilogram attempt being a no lift. The third competitor, Mimosetti, another Paralympian, lifted 82 kilograms with a no lift for her first lift of 80 kilograms and a no lift for her third lift of 87 kilograms. Impressive. I was truly impressed with that. Now the bar had been set. That would be my goal over the coming years, to get stronger and lift better. The men's competition included 3 different weight classes, up to 65 kilograms, up to 72 kilograms, and the plus 72 kilograms. There were also some Paralympians competing in the men's competition. The winning lift in the up to 65 kilogram class was a lift of 165 kilograms by Alex Bolan. The up to 72 kilogram class, a 130 kilogram lift by David Coupien. The over 72 kilogram class with a lift of 179 kilograms was by Julian Avenburn. I have already made the comment that many songs talk to me. Remember Bob Marley after my time in the Colosseum, the court, and the songs he gave me? This day it was Queen giving me a message. Just before I went to the warm-up area, a song shouted out a message at me. Queen's "Don't Stop Me Now." I said to the lady who was in charge of drinks and snacks, "This song is for me. Don't stop me now." She laughed and I went to warm up. I did actually get presented with a medal, but I'd left with a lovely girl who was also a judge to go back to the hotel to change for the evening meal. We chatted. Her English was good. She was a trained speech therapist and a lovely person. I would probably get my medal one day. It would be more for nostalgia for me, a little sign that I had made some progress. Once everything was packed away, we all headed for the restaurant, not the same as the one the night before, but my loyal chauffeur, Joanne Berry, took me there. I was sat opposite another judge, Jean-Bernard Gibert, and his wife, and the guy with the sports car, Julian, to my right, who spoke good English. I had briefly spoken to Julian after the competition, but now I was sat next to him. I wanted to know if he was a bodybuilder. He was, and he had just won a competition. He had had his leg amputated when he was 18 years old and had started training then. I told him I used to compete with the EFBB, and I think he was impressed. He said he hoped his next competition would be with that federation. The evening was very pleasant, everybody enjoying the friendly atmosphere. and tomorrow we would all be back to our different lives. The next morning after breakfast, everyone said their goodbyes. I wished the bodybuilder sports car guide Julian all the best, for he was about to open a gym in the new year. I was encouraging and happy that he was following a deep passion and dream that he had. I was pleased to see a person follow not only his dream, but their passion. The two, I think, go hand in hand with each other. Julian asked if I planned to compete in May 2020 in Drôme in the south of France. Yes, I would like to. Why not? I now had my shorter drive to Rouen and then Monday the longer trip home, but I was happy with the weekend, the people I had met and the lessons I had learnt. All credit must go to all the organisers and especially Barbara Mayer, who worked so efficiently and endlessly to make the event happen. I was grateful to them all. They did not appreciate what gift they had all just given me. The gift of self-love, no matter what challenges may have been thrown at you. By the end of 2019, I had my appeal ready. I never got any files, even though in November I had physically gone to the court, who told me all my files were now at the appeal court in Poitiers. Once again, my request for something I had a legal right to, being ignored. This time by the court. I concluded they all piss in the same pot. Val Patard was such a wonderful professional and a supportive person. We both thought it would be best to send my appeal file by secure sign-for post after Christmas in January 2020. The court date being the 23rd of March 2020. I had previously requested my file from the appeal court in Poitiers to no avail. No response and no files. Why does that not surprise me? In the November, I had realised that there was a powerlifting competition in Manchester in February 2020, which I would like to go to, so I could further my knowledge, which I had learnt at the competition in December. Also, some of the people from that competition were going to be representing France in Manchester at the World Paralifting competition. I told them that I was hoping to go and watch. I made arrangements. I would at least get to see my coach Danny in Liverpool, then go on to Manchester, then up to Yorkshire. I booked a flight from Nantes to Manchester from the 16th of February until the 26th of February 2020. Before the trip, I had asked Santa for an Olympic powerlifting set. I needed to get used to the bar that was used in competitions, and I was sort of running out of options with the weights I already had. I loved going to the gym, but that was just once a week. My main office of weight work was at home, and I needed to upgrade things. It was a bit like going back to my small gym in the hut when I was at Liverpool University. If you have the will and desire, you can just get on with it, no matter what facilities were available to you. I felt at last, nearly 4 years after my accident, a year was ending on a positive and encouraging note. But why do I keep thinking this? I always end up disappointed and battling my way through another difficult year. End of chapter. Chapter 35. Appeal papers, the volunteer, fear of the truth, and my pen is mightier than the courts. When you tear out a man's tongue, you are not proving him a liar. You're only telling the world that you fear what he might say. George R. Martin. I like the number 2, so I was hoping 2020 would be a good 12 months, but my track record didn't really show that. My appeal pieces were translated even though I had not received anything from the courts after a number of requests. The game obviously still being played out. My translated pieces or file included the following. On the front of my red plastic file was my name, Madam Walker Penelope, the title Pieces, Procedure and Appeal, and the reference number 19/710. The first page had the Cour d'Appel de Poitiers address, 86000 Poitiers, and a list of the pieces documents included. There were 35 pieces. Pieces 1 to 6 were attestations, character references, from people who had been in my life at some point and knew my character and integrity. The first one was from Philip, a retired UK senior police officer who had been seconded by the UK Foreign and Commonwealth Office and had held the position of Head of Police Development Department, OSCE. He had supervised a staff of 80 people and negotiated policing policy at government level. He stated that he could recommend me, as an honest, dedicated and talented professional who is an asset to our many patients. The second was from Stephen, a company owner of Sandhams, who I had known for many years. His conclusion: I truly believe wherever Penny goes, it will be their gain and our loss. The third was from Michael, the owner of Townsend Planning. He stated, I must state that I have always been impressed by her professionalism. Perhaps more importantly, I have been impressed by her care, understanding and empathy with her clients. The fourth from Andrew, the director of Modis. Penny is a very professional, ethical and reliable physio. She's very skillful and dedicated. The fifth from Christine from Kirklees Council, the South West Yorkshire Mental Health NHS Trust. An important part of my job is to research and procure the service of a variety of holistic complementary therapists to provide such skills as sound knowledge of their profession, good communication and facilitating skills, to be able to convey enthusiasm and enjoyment in the session, valuing people and treating them with respect. Penny has consistently provided all the above skills and attributes and is always a sought after and popular therapist. The sixth being from Brenda, head teacher of food technology. My life is richer for having the support and now friendship of Penny. I cannot recommend her highly enough. Penny is incredibly conscientious, hard-working and caring with a great sense of humour, a credit to her profession. I included these to show I was not that person that they were portraying me to be. These professionals who had never bothered to find out who I really was. Pieces 7 to 16 included my medical records from Nantes Hospital and the Grand Fair. Pieces 17 to 21, 17 included police photographs, with piece 18 being photographs from the first expert, Maurice Pascal. Piece 19 are photographs of the Seats, my car, wheels. Piece 20 are photographs of the non-preservation of any evidence on the Seat. And piece 21, a report by the second expert, Mark Push. Some of the pieces I will put in the appendix, but give a brief explanation here why I had included them. The whole evidence, according to Maurice Pascal, the first expert report, lay at the black rubber marks, on the Seat's back right plastic wheel hub and the Peugeot, the DuPont's car, front bumper, which he also claimed had black rubber marks on its left. Piece 17 are 5 police photographs. Photograph IMG 1567 JPG being taken at the scene of the accident. I was still in the car, the emergency team preparing to cut me out. The other 4 photos were taken the following day on the 3rd of April 2016 by the police at the garage where the cars were stored for evidence, but not undercover or with any protection. These 5 photos are of the Seat's back right wheel, and it is shown on all 5 photos that there is no wheel hub on this right back wheel. Piece 18 shows the same 5 police photos alongside 2 photos taken by Maurice Pascal, first expert, either on the 28th of April 2016 or the 23rd of August 2016, the 2 dates he states he visited the garage. So the photos could have only been taken on either of these dates. These 2 photos taken by Pascal now show the Seat's back right wheel as a wheel hub on it, this being where he concluded the contact took place on the Seat due to the alleged overtaking and the alleged pulling in and touching the Peugeot's front bumper on the left side. I would like to add, I did point out this very fact and the 5 police photographs plus the contradicting Maurice Pascal's photographs to Raposo, who dismissed it. But my simple question is, how does a plastic wheel hub or cover take itself off and move itself from the left back wheel and then fixes itself onto the right back wheel on the Seat car? How interesting and miraculous is that? If someone had found a wheel cover in the road, there obviously was not a search made. Remember, I found a perfect wheel cover in the edge off my car a year later. They can't just guess which of the 4 tyres to put it on. And remember, the police photos showed only one in place less than 24 hours later on the left back wheel. The other 3 tyres didn't have anything on them. I found one undamaged, which was left in the edge for a year at the scene of the accident. So this cover must have had magical powers that allowed it to move onto the right back tyre on Maurice Pascal's photographs. Oh, and don't forget that this wheel cover from the Seat and a front bumper of the Peugeot vanished when I requested a second expert's report. The only 2 pieces of the cars that Maurice Pascal claimed made contact. Piece 19 showing all of this with 7 police photographs showing all the 4 wheels of the Seat and only the back left wheel has got a wheel cover on. The front 2 wheels in IMG 6767 and 6741, clearly showing the damage to the front wheels with no wheel covers, and IMG 6768 showing the back right wheel of the Seat without a wheel cover. There is a mud mark on the back right tyre, and I know it's the right because the petrol cover can be seen on IMG 6745, and that was on the right side of the car. Its image IMG 6769 that shows the left back wheel, and that is the one with the cover on. As I stated earlier, I also, over a year later, in the edge, at the scene of the accident, found one of my plastic wheel hubs, without damage or any mark, which was off the Seat's back right wheel, because a plastic wheel hub stroke cover would not have been undamaged if it had come off the Seat's front wheels. If the impact could take my right hand clean off and my steering wheel, I don't think a plastic wheel hub could have survived undamaged. So what does all this mean? Well, firstly, you don't have to take years training as a police officer to work it out. I was not overtaking. It's more probable that the Peugeot had lost control and caught my back left wheel as it was out of control, which then sent me into a tree. The only one on that stretch of road, the rest being edging. It also means that someone moved the wheel hub from the back left to the back right, so it could look as if the Seat overtook. The police photos all say the same, and if the wonderful technology used by expert Pascal could explain the accident, I would like them to show me how a wheel hub can, all by itself, move from one wheel to another weeks later, and by March 2017, when a second expert is there to examine the non-preserved evidence, the magic moving wheel hub vanishes, along with the Peugeot's front bumper. The only two areas, according to Maurice Pascal, that proved the cause of the accident. How do you misplace a full-size bumper in a double murder case when it is alleged that this is vital evidence? Just asking. I thought these photos needed to be seen. At least the appeal court could clearly see from the pieces I provided that there was something extremely dodgy happening, with the only evidence that I was being sentenced for double murder with. The fact that my solicitor didn't bother to mention this little inconsistency or mystery captured on police photographs spoke volumes to me. Piece 20 are photos to show how contaminated the Seat car was before the second and third expert got to examine it, minus the mysteriously vanished Seat wheel hub and Peugeot's front bumper. In fact, in piece 21, I included a response to the report by Christopher Lendon, the third expert, by Mark Push, the second expert, in which this national expert Mark Push states on page 4 of the response in bold print that there is no preservation of the vehicles and basically it can't be used as evidence. Also, at the top of page 5 on this response, Christopher Lendon has a photo of the tree hitting the Peugeot in the roof, and then suddenly Christopher Lendon changes his mind. Now, at the bottom of page 5 and on page 6, he shows the tree hitting the Peugeot in the windscreen. Come on, Lendon, make your mind up. You have already done all your calculations with two left-hand drive cars instead of my right-hand car. And now you can't make your mind up if the impact on the Peugeot was in the roof or in the windscreen. Come on. After all, you're supposed to be the expert. The court in April 2019 on the 15th did not even mention Mark Push's faultless report, instead relying on Christopher Lendon and Maurice Pascal, the experts with the self-moving plastic wheel hub, and Lyndon, the one who used the wrong cars and couldn't decide which part of the Peugeot the tree hit, if indeed it ever hit the tree. Remember, Pascal had it stuck in the tree when at the scene of the accident the Peugeot was in a totally different position and direction. I have to accept my sentence of double murder on that quality of information. A 5-year-old could see these mistakes, but police, judges, prosecutors and solicitors couldn't or wouldn't. Piece 22 is the police statements from the first person who found the accident and phoned for help. Piece 23, 24, 25 and 26 are all police statements from pompiers who attended the accident. The statements 22 to 26, all stating that Mr. Dupont had no signs of life. He was not worked on to try and revive him, but Mrs. Dupont was. This was way before 10 p.m. The first witness statement stating she arrived at 8:40 p.m. One of the pompiers' statement even mentions their belief that Mr. Dupont had had a heart attack. Le conducteur arrêt cardiaque et ce passenger inconsistant mais qui respire. The driver had a heart attack and the passenger was unconscious but still breathing. I included these because it clearly showed that there was no question that the driver of the Peugeot was ever seen alive from at least 8:40 p.m. and he did not die at 10 p.m. as Judge Isabel de Cox aggressively, I have got to use the word, everyone else does, claimed he did. That time, 10 p.m, was the time of a pronounced death. But an autopsy, the legal way to define time and cause of death, and consumption of alcohol and prescribed drugs, was never carried out. So we will never know, will we? However, he was 85 years old and in perfect health, according to Geraldine Dauphine. In a court of law, a solicitor committing perjury, isn't that breaking the law? Isn't that misleading and most definitely stretching the truth, if it was in fact true? Piece 28 was some of my interrogation by the police, which conveniently left my questions out and the non-informative answers or unanswered response by the police. My two main questions being, had they consumed alcohol and were they on medication or had any medical problems? The questions dodged, not giving a straight answer, 2, or no answer at all, swiftly moving on from having to give one. Piece 29 was the paper I was served with and bullied to sign on the 16th of January 2017, plus the notification of rights in English. The one that police officer Karen Payer told me was a copy of the served papers, which it wasn't. I didn't understand what I was forced to sign. Piece 30 was the charge I was presented with after I was interrogated for nearly 3 hours, and I refused to sign it. I didn't agree with it. Eventually I did reluctantly sign it because I was feeling very ill and faint and just wanted to get out of the toxic, bullying and hostile environment. I was still in my wheelchair and was still very unwell from the accident. Pieces 31 to 34 were papers referring to a visit made by Hervé Dupont, one of the sons, on the 5th of April 2016 in a police station in Cognac. At this time, I was still in a coma, or maybe had just come out, and still in ICU, and not certain if I would live or die. The son went to tell a story about the accident, even though he wasn't there. You would have thought he would have had the funeral first. There was no delay for the funeral, for they didn't bother with that small matter of finding out the cause of death, or alcohol or drugs in the driver's system, with an autopsy. But for some reason, this story needs to be told in just over 48 hours. There is a much bigger window of opportunity than that to start the claim for compensation. Maybe he was desperate for money, or trying to hide the truth. It is interesting that the same charges that the police officer Lucas Philippoto charged me with on the story told by Hervé Dupont, who wasn't even at the accident, were the same that were given to me on the 15th of April 2019 in court. So, the sentence was decided before any so-called investigation to the cause of the accident had even begun, purely based on a story and assumptions and no doubt gossip told and delivered by Hervé Dupont in a Cognac police station on the 5th of April 2016 at 15:05 hours. Also interesting was there was no mention of alcohol, the age of 85 years, or any medical conditions, procedures or medication for his 85-year-old father. But then, that was the whole point. Lead them down a path away from the truth. That foreign other driver won't probably survive anyway. Piece 35 was a document requesting an investigation sent to the magician Maurice Pascal. Remember, he can make things move and vanish. What a clever man. It was sent on the 6th of April 2016 at 11:45. The request made for the expert to investigate the cause of the accident. The instructions being to open an inquiry for the homicide, murder, by a road accident that caused, yes it stated caused, the death of 2 people. I thought the whole point of appointing an expert was to conclude and investigate the cause of the accident. So how at this stage can Police Officer Eric Gattard put in print that the accident caused the death of 2 people? How did he know? Oh yeah, he read Hervé Dupont's story, or he told him the story. But let's not worry here. There will be an autopsy, and then we will get to know the truth and the true cause of death. After all, an autopsy is the only legal way of defining the cause of death, isn't it? Or can someone walking by or not even be at the scene where there is a fatality decide the cause of death? Apparently so. Making assumptions that it was murder before any investigation can't be lawful. What's the point of having thousands of laws if no one follows them? I get it now. You pick out the ones that will fit into the story and gossip. Don't bother to look for real evidence. That's not the police's job, is it? Boy, do I wish I had Columbo on this case. He would have not missed the obvious or listened to the gossip, made up stories all the bullshit and lies. On the 23rd of January 2020, I sent the file to the appeal court in Poitiers, all translated into French, secure, signed for, return notification of arrival post. It cost a bit, but I wanted to know that the appeal court had got it. In March 2020, I sent another file, again registered post, with the exact material in it, also translated, to Dupont's solicitor. I received the pieces from Philippe Cortus on the 18th or 19th of March, less than a week before the court date. It was all in French. Remember, it's how the game is played. Leave a person in the dark. Don't give them their human rights. You would think that this world-famous solicitor would know that one of the basic human rights was the equality of arms, and I should have equal opportunities as the other party. Not giving anything in my native language, which I am sure such a big and famous cabinet of solicitors was quite capable of doing, meant they weren't giving me an equal opportunity. This was not living up to the profile he portrayed. The portrayal being Philippe Cortius' desires for fighting for justice and the truth. Not his desire in my case. Instead, let's camouflage and ignore the truth and get a victory at any cost. We must not let our famous reputation get dirty now, should we? I tried to understand the documents that they had sent me, but with less than a week to go before the 25th of March, I couldn't get it translated. As I was endeavouring to do this myself, a voice came into my head. Don't bother, it's a game. They are only going to try and direct you away from what they are hiding. Funny enough, there was no mention of alcohol, medication, medical records, health status, ages, or the lack of an autopsy. No reference to the national expert Mark Push. I wonder why that was. But just as the undamaged plastic wheel hub in the edge that I was gifted a year after the accident was a sign from the universe indicating to me that the wheels needed looking at more closely, for it was a sign that I was on point and that the evidence was sabotaged to look as if I had overtaken. Another gift sent and presented to me in the paper sent by Philippe Cortus was in piece 30. In piece 30 there was a photo of Maurice Dupont with a glass of alcohol at his right hand in the summer of 2015, so less than a year before the accident. This showed a number of things. Firstly, he not only could drink, as Dupont's solicitor said in court, but he did. And they had just proved it with a photo less than a year old. This photo wasn't taken years before the 2nd of April 2016, but only months before. Now I knew why alcohol is never mentioned and why a test for alcohol is never taken. The police saying there wasn't sufficient blood. Rob and Stephen walked the scene of the accident as the emergency teams were trying to get me out of my car. They saw no blood near the Duponts, so no huge amount of physical loss of blood there. More than can be said for my situation. Also, how did this French system manage to test Henri Paul, Princess Diana's driver? Henri, Diana's driver, was killed at the scene. Same country, same laws. How did they manage to test him for alcohol and do an autopsy? The situation was the same. Many times I had asked my team of guardians to give me signs that what I knew deep in my being was true. And there was a reason why everybody is hiding and avoiding discussing the subject or the word alcohol. Like the wheel up, this photo was the sign I needed. I now knew this 85-year-old was not a teetotaler, but consumed alcohol. The only bit of information that the police managed to find out about the Duponts was that they drove 2.5 hours from Cognac to visit with family and friends in Saint-Pompam, and they left just after the traditional apéro time. Apéro time is a very serious time for the French, and usually is in the early evening, where they have drinks with friends or family between 6 p.m. and 9 p.m. This tradition of France very much active today, especially with the older generations. The most disappointing thing is that the Duponts couple sat with family or friends who knew what they drank and ate, yet they allowed them behind a car wheel. Why didn't any of these people or anyone connected to the Duponts ever get questioned officially and provide a sworn witness statement? Rob, my partner, had to. There are so many people involved in this cover-up. Facts do not cease to exist because they are ignored. Aldous Huxley. I wonder how they all sleep at night. If my 2 boys had been in the car, they probably have sentenced me for killing my own sons too. But justice does exist outside any human justice system, and my boys were never meant to be in the car, just me. I have immense gratitude for that. I would raise a glass to all those that did and are hiding the truth, hiding behind their unspoken words, allowing the untruths to grow into a jungle of cover-ups and deceit. But I can't. I don't drink, and I haven't got my right hand. In January 2020, I was also blessed to still be getting support from my team at APF, and I had got my new attachment for Stubby from Pasquale nearly ready. Though I didn't have it for my competition in December 2019, I was pleased to have it nearly finished. It was so much more robust, so would work well when I was benching. I just had to go back on the 5th of February to get it slightly altered, which they gladly did. I knew that there was room for improvement, but I had something that worked well, and by using it, I would learn how to improve and develop it further if needed. I was so grateful. The next week, on the 16th of February, I would be heading to the UK and see my hidden gem, Danny, at Taylor's Gym in Liverpool. I decided to take my old attachment and leave my new one at home. I didn't want to lose it. I had only just got it. I landed in Manchester Airport on the Sunday the 16th of April, late afternoon, and had a train booked for 17:53 to Liverpool, arriving in Lime Street Station around 7 p.m. I knew this station well. I had used it many times in the mid-1980s when I was at Liverpool University. I couldn't believe how much it had changed, but things tend to in 30 years. 2 friends met me at Lime Street Station, and we went to their house to eat and to catch up, having not seen them for years. After catching up, I went to my hotel in Liverpool, the Tune Hotel. They were friendly and the place was just right for what I needed, a 3-night stay in Liverpool. It had the added thing which made Elliot so jealous when I spoke to him, a Greggs next door. his favourite food outlet. He adored their chicken pasties. I got my tea, coffee and porridge there each day, and an occasional cookie. I was now trying to eat for my training, what you eat being important to progress in your training. Your car wouldn't function so well if you put water instead of fuel in it, and you wouldn't get very far. I saw the food I consumed was a vital part of my training and a thing that was easy to do. The hardest part for me was having the time to eat enough. I was booked to be coached by Danny at his gym, Taylor's Gym, a 5-minute walk away from my hotel. On the Monday and Tuesday, I had booked my coaching sessions for 3 o'clock until about 4:30. I had also booked a treatment with another Danny who had a treatment room there, DS Sports Massage. Daniel Staples was an excellent therapist, and I'm very picky. It's got to be hands-on, deep, and get to the root of the tightness, injury, or restriction. My poor body having all three. Since my accident, I hadn't really had treatment but rehabilitation at the Grand Fair, which I was so lucky and grateful to have. I hadn't bothered with treatment. I knew what my body needed. Machines and 10 minutes of light massage was a waste of time. My battered body needed far more than that, which Danny Staples expertly gave it. He gave hands-on treatment, asking the right questions and listening to the patient. I would definitely seek more treatment from him each time I was in Liverpool. I had gone out earlier to find the address of Taylor's Gym and also found a great sandwich shop. All the workmen in their work boots and dirt were queuing outside. A good sign. So that was my source of food for the next couple of days. I didn't get the bacon sandwich the workmen were getting. Having pigs back in France meant pork was all I sent to eat, so I didn't bother with bacon, though it smelt good. I chose tuna instead. That afternoon I set off with plenty of time to spare to walk to Danny's gym. It would be great to meet him at last. The guy willing to take on my challenges with belief and an amazing depth of knowledge. As I walked, I wondered if he knew what he was letting himself in for. A disabled-bodied ex-bodybuilder who saw no reason why her dreams could not materialise with the right guidance, a lot of hard work, faith and perseverance. With an inbuilt stubbornness to do something that not many had done. The path was not well trodden, and maybe a new path had to be created, but my belief was that impossibility is only impossible until it is done. As I got nearer to the gym, I saw a tall bearded man walking in my direction. I thought, I bet that's Danny. He later told me, I saw you and thought, I bet that's Penny. After 7 months of energetically connecting via distant training in a city I had a deep soulful connection to, I would at last meet Danny in the flesh on the streets of Liverpool. I instantly knew, just like my connection with Dembo all those years ago, that this connection would be strong. Danny also getting the crazy, driven, determined me, just as Dembo had, and I would not be let down. Danny was on his way for his coffee. I had a feeling this was a daily routine for him, and I hobbled along at the side of him, chatting away. Folk from Liverpool loved to talk as much as folk from Yorkshire. I loved his gym. It was an hardcore place, no frills, just a raw, fantastic space, oozing with atmosphere and spirit, even though there weren't many there at this late afternoon time slot. I believe gyms breathe. They give off energy and they have a soul all of their own. I always felt it at Muscle World, Poitier's gym in France, and most definitely in Taylor's gym in Liverpool. It looked a little bit like the cavern that the Beatles made famous worldwide. That now being a tourist attraction. At Taylor's gym, I felt welcomed and at home. I struggle with what I call the posh marketed gyms. They may be colourful and well equipped, but they lack the soul and the characters of those well-worn grassroots sorts of gyms. I was there to kick ass. I didn't need the posh sparkling equipment. I needed the grunt and the banter of a down-to-earth real gym. That's what I got at Taylor's. Danny wanted to assess my abilities. When you are classed as 8% disabled, people don't know what to expect. I was nothing like before my accident physically. I had been well and truly smashed up. People obviously see the missing right hand, but that's only the beginning of the story. But you must own your disabilities, not let it own you or even define you. I had broken my back in 4 places in the lumbar region and all the other stuff, but I just about held on to my spirit and soul. I had 2 coaching sessions booked with Danny, and he spent a good time going through stretches, assessing my mobility, flexibility and balance, all of which required a lot of work. We also went through the benching techniques required and competition rules. The smallest thing can make a big difference. The amount of weight not of any importance if you pick up bad techniques, habits and wrong competitive styles on the lightweight. That's only going to get worse as the resistance increases. Patience being a major element and something that is difficult to have, but you must have it. My few days in Liverpool were so inspiring. I got a brilliant coaching, the technical stuff, position on the bench, hand and stubby, plus attachments position, breathing, and an added bonus to meet Danny's powerlifting team. He coaches them twice a week. They were kind, encouraging and inspiring to watch. I was invited to go back to the gym on Tuesday evening to watch, a privilege I was blessed to have been given. They all worked really hard and with humour and enthusiasm. I got a very good treatment from Danny Staples, and I also managed to meet up again with my friends and got some more treatment and great hospitality, plus lots of encouragement to achieve my goals. Now it was back on a train heading for Manchester. I was heading for Wythenshawe, South Manchester. I knew Wythenshawe. It was at Wythenshawe Hospital that I had trained for a year for physiotherapy, living in a tall block of flats close to the hospital with crazy, full of life nurses. I left to continue my training at the Northern College of Massage. I had been in contact with Eddie Alstead, who was involved with the British powerlifting and involved in organising the Powerlifting World Cup. The Manchester 2020 Road to Tokyo Powerlifting was at Wythenshawe Forum. I had booked to go on the Thursday, the 20th of February, till the finish on the Sunday, the 23rd of February. I was booked into Normanhurst Hotel, about a 15-minute taxi drive away. I had applied to be a volunteer, but wasn't sure if I had applied too late for it to be possible. I got there on Thursday, and yes, it was okay to be a volunteer. So I get the t-shirt and was put on the sponsors area. I don't know what else to call it. Food and drinks being on offer for those with the right pass. I took any chance I could to talk to anyone. It was so much easier and even strange to hear all the English accents. I watched the competition with total admiration for all the competitors. They were lifting some heavy weights. I was so happy to have been given the chance by Eddie to soak up this very well organised event. It had organisation, atmosphere, brilliant athletes, and for me, a humbling experience. I saw it as a blessing that was given to me to see that there are people who work endlessly and tirelessly to assist people with disabilities. It just confirmed to me that there was a purpose to the horrendous and challenging card I had been dealt. My journey wasn't just for my own benefit, but that one day I would be shown how to give and help others on their rough sea. How and when I didn't know. I did know, however, it was one of my missions, sent by the universe, and I was more than willing to oblige. Barbara Mayer, who I first met at my competition in Villeneuve-Ascq, was there in an official capacity as one of the judges. Also there was a French lifting team, and they did well. Suhad Ghazorani winning gold in her weight class. It was wonderful to see them again, and to see them do so well. Hopefully I would see them again in May at the next competition in the south of France. I was hungry for knowledge and watched and took on board everything I could. I met a lot of very knowledgeable people who were very kind with their time and answering my questions. If you don't ask, you never get to know anything. The key, I have found, is to ask those daft questions. They often provide very informative answers. You soon sense those that don't want to be bothered, and that's okay. Find someone who does want to talk. They are often filled with information you have never thought of. My main questions were about how to get to be part of powerlifting. I was part of it in France with my licence from Handisport, and I could enter as many competitions as I liked there, but I could not aim for Paris representing France. You had to be a citizen of the country you are representing. I had already done some research, and one of the first things to do was to become a member of the British Powerlifting Organisation, which turned out to be the hub of information. To take part in any competition, you had to have an eligible physical impairment. Believe it or not, it has been known for some to enter teams into the Paralympics with athletes that have not got impairments and have lied to get to the Paralympics. What's that all about? I love that sign in a disabled parking spot that states, "If you take my parking spot, take my disability too." That goes for any people out there who try and cheat. We did not request our disabilities. We are just trying to find a positive and enriching way to live with them. Sport being a massive way and part of getting somewhere close to achieving that. Be grateful that you are able-bodied. Don't insult us any more than some of you do by taking this away from us. To participate nationally, your eligible physical impairments must be named in the World Powerlifting Classifications, Rules and Regulations, which is acknowledged and evidenced by your GP or consultant by completing a World Powerlifting Medical Diagnostic Form and then sending it to your organisation. In the UK it would be the British Powerlifting, and in France it is Handisport. Then it will be determined if the minimum impairment criteria is met for your specific physical impairment. In para-powerlifting, athletes with hearing, visual or intellectual impairments only are not eligible to compete. This is maybe a safety issue. After all, benching is a dangerous occupation, as I learnt at Liverpool University 30 years ago. To go down the international path, the World Para-Powerlifting minimum must be met. A World Para-Powerlifting licence is essential and can be purchased once all the documentation had been submitted. I managed to chat briefly with Eddie Olsted and some of the judges, who were very encouraging and informative. I also got to pick the brains of a very kind and knowledgeable man who was watching the competition. He was Glyn, a coach based in Salford and was involved with the para-powerlifting sport. I learnt a lot, and I said I would love to visit his gym the next time I was in the UK. He said he would be happy to introduce me to people at his gym, and I would be most welcome. So now, full of inspiration, I signed up for my membership at the British Powerlifting Organisation. That was there. I also went to get Stubby his own t-shirt, his name on the back. I felt alive, uplifted, and knew this was the path I was meant to be treading. Where I was going, I hadn't got a clue, but someone, somewhere, would guide me, of that I was sure. I spoke to the man and the woman from the t-shirt company, Unique, who were selling and printing logos on the merchandise for Manchester 2020, and discovered they were from my neck of the woods. I spoke a lot to them. They were really nice, and we had quite a lot in common, coming from the same area. I was due to leave and get a train to Dewsbury on Sunday, and I found out that the t-shirt man was going back to Huddersfield on Sunday afternoon. So I asked if I could have a lift, because the trains on Sundays were not as frequent as throughout the week. He was happy to take me, and we chatted away as we drove over the Pennines on the M62. I was so grateful. He dropped me off at Huddersfield train station, and Susan came to get me. I was so lucky to have had such a friendly, enlightening few days in Manchester. Now I could have a quick catch-up with Susan, some of my friends, and see my dad. I managed 2 training sessions at my old gym and a catch-up with Darren. I got to see Pat and Robin. Robin trained with me. I even got Dembo to come and spot for me. It meant the world to me to have him back by my side in the gym. The gym we had worked so hard together in. The gym that allowed us to make an unbreakable bond of an amazing friendship, trust and unconditional love. Dembo hadn't stepped foot in the gym for years, and I asked if he would just come to the gym for 15-20 minutes to spot for me. At first he was reluctant, but then he didn't let me down and said he would. It was like going back in time, my mind, body and soul, back in the place I had worked so hard, and more importantly, back with the person who allowed me to achieve so much. I wanted and needed him to be part of my new dream, challenges and direction. We had both been thrown some dark places that we had to visit, but now there was a glimmer of light, and I wanted us both to benefit from it, embrace it and heal within it. Mine and Dembo's souls were intertwined, and we felt each other's challenges and pain, so it was important to feel each other's joys too. I was not going to leave my mate behind, even if that meant me dragging him along behind me. That's how powerful a bond we had created over the years, and together we could be si de nullis. I also managed a quick visit with another important and influential man in my life, my dad. My dad was strong, accepting of his situation and loving. He looked a bit lost and confused. He was missing my mum, but putting a brave face on. It saddened me to see this, but what I took from it, like so many other things shown to me on my challenging journey, was that we have got a choice to how we want to live. We can be angry, disappointed, and non-forgiving of life's cruelties and the things that happen to us, and the things people do and say to us. Or we can choose to live in peace and harmony, facing the battles through our troubles, but not allowing them to own us, define us, and dictate to us our sense of well-being and happiness. No, you don't lay down and be trodden upon, but you are grateful of the lessons and stay in your own lane. Being your authentic true self, connecting to your heart and soul, and walking away from anything or anyone who attempts to alter that. We have only a short phase of time in which to be truly happy, because we are often too busy fighting it. The visit to see Dad was so good, in a sad sort of way. We talked a lot about his rugby, but he did seem to avoid talking about Mum. He did seem organised and content with his life. I was proud to be his daughter. I missed him and enjoyed our time together. He is a very special soul. I didn't know that world events would mean that would be my last visit. Another visit I managed to fit in was seeing my dear friend Debbie and her amazing husband Lee. I got a few hours with them, a lovely couple who worked hard and are very genuine and caring. I was booked on the train from Dewsbury Station to Manchester Airport, and Susan, another caring and amazing friend, coming on the train too, because she liked to have outings on a train. The only problem was the previous train hadn't turned up, so this one was way too full, and for most of the journey we couldn't sit together. We said our goodbyes at the airport, an emotional time for me. This beautiful person stood in front of me, had been and was a solid foundation for me, a big slab of granite, always on the other end of a phone, always there to pick me up, listen and guide me. Susan did this even though she was taking care of her aging mum, another wonderful person who I always went to visit and have a cuppa with when at Susan's. I loved her mum's company. She was also a special lady. As I waited for my flight to Nantes in Manchester Airport, again my team of guardians would show and highlight another reality to me, one that I had guessed to be in existence, but now it was confirmed. I was learning and accepting that information I was meant to know would be given in divine timing. Just as the information on the wheel hub I found in the Edge and the photo of Mr. Dupont drinking only months before the accident, today would reveal another truth. On this occasion it involved two friends, now ex-friends, who had believed Rob's stories and chose to back that horse. I knew they discussed me because Elliot had heard them, so their friendship wasn't the kind I respected. It was around 3 years since any contact, although I had heard that they had moved to France permanently. I spotted Claire and Louis going to the shops in Manchester Airport, and the actions I saw when we landed in Nantes Airport confirmed to me they had spotted me too. The plane was small, it wasn't full, and Nantes airport is small too. But they must have been in a bit of a rush because Claire and Louis were already there in the airport waiting outside the male toilets, no doubt for Stephen, before I even got into the airport. We had been on the same small plane. They had their backs turned and didn't see me as I went to get my bag. I then placed myself against a wall so I could sort out my bags. They had to walk past me. It wasn't a large area and there weren't that many passengers. Stephen looked straight at me and marched past, throwing me an unpleasant stare. Louis passed too, but had a look of fear and uncertainty when he saw me. The stories Rob had woven about me must have been good. Then Claire had to pass me. I looked straight at her and said hello. She pretended to not have seen me, but that was impossible, and there was no surprise on her face, just a look of, oh bloody hell. They were probably getting away as fast as they could and knew I was on the flight. Louis came back and I spoke to him, asked if he now spoke French, and commented how tall he had grown. He left quickly to get to his dad, who was way ahead and didn't move but stayed there. With the look on Louis's face, stories had obviously been told. Claire had to make small talk, asked if I had been on the same flight. I said, "What flight were you on?" "Manchester," was Claire's reply, which I had guessed. "Have you been to see family?" Claire uncomfortably asked. She looked so nervous and guilty. My reply, "I have been doing this and that." She then asked about Harvey and Elliot, and then made her excuses of needing to get to the car. I actually felt sorry for them. They had been my friends a lot of years, but they had made their choice. I had nothing to hide or bow my head about, but obviously they did. I was offering an olive branch, but it wasn't taken. They believed the gossip and lies that Rob had spun, and that's their prerogative. I wish them all well, especially Louis, a very special young person. We had Hugo, a Danish student, stay with us, and on the 1st of March, Harvey left for a week's exchange in Denmark through Lycée. He loved it, and I'm sure he will visit there once again. Harvey got back on the 15th of March. He had an amazing time. I was so pleased for him. The timing was good for Harvey. He gained a lot from the experience. Life carried on, and I posted a copy of my appeal papers to the Dupont's solicitor, though I had not received a thing from anyone. I was obviously seen as a mushroom that needed to be kept in the dark. Then, at noon in France, on the 17th of March, a change occurred which would affect the world. We also had a further issue to face, which would clearly show the truth of the situation and the true colours of those involved. On my return from getting the animal food on the morning of the 17th of March 2020, Harvey was waiting at the gate and told me that from noon we were on lockdown and weren't allowed to go anywhere without an official paper. Remember, I didn't watch TV or listen to the radio, preferring to be oblivious to the world's madness. From the time I had been on planet Earth, I was inclined to have the same opinion as Voltaire. Planet Earth is the asylum to which the rest of the universe sends its lunatics. I preferring to avoid the constant misery the media seems to be obsessed with, and ultimately some of that energy I would pick up. It would weigh heavy on my heart. To recover from my own personal burdensome energies, I could not take on others. "Okay, Harvey, Let's get the food I have just got into the back of your car, and I will go and get some more, because the pigs will not understand lockdown, and they will not understand not being fed. I just had time before Kavat would shut for dinner at 12, and who knows when it would reopen. When I returned, it had been busy and a lot of panic at Kavat. No one had a clue what was going to happen. I got what pig food I could in my car and left the madness behind. I arrived back home, and as I was getting out of my car, a white Seat with an English number plate came down our small lane, stopped, reversed back, stopped again, and then came towards me. I stopped and watched. At first, for some reason, I thought, oh no, someone I have stopped talking to is coming, and I really can't be bothered with their excuses. But then, because it reversed back, I thought, maybe it was someone lost and they need directions. Then the driver decided not to go backwards but forwards towards mine and Harvey's car, which was now filled with animal food. It pulled up behind our cars and stopped. The driver getting out of the car, the passengers staying where they were, and without shutting the driver's door, started to swagger in a bit of a cocky John Wayne style, a confident way, with a smirk on his face, and said, "Bonjour." It was Rob. The last time I had any contact with him was in the same spot in March 2018. It's now March 2020. When he asked for some papers, which I handed to him before he left, his parting words being, "Bon chance, good luck." My reply, "I think I will need more than good luck with the shit I have to deal with." An apology for spitting in my face, I think, would have been more of an appropriate parting expression. But of course, that never happened, or would ever happen. In Rob's head, it never took place. So why the fuck was he here now, after 2 years of no contact? I could see straight through him. He was so transparent. I asked, "Who's that in the car?" His reply, "None of your fucking business." I thought, you've brought them to my door. It's all my fucking business. The driver's door was still wide open, so I went over to put my head into the car to say hello. Rob had come for a fight, so he could show his new friend that all the stories he had been vomiting out to all that would polish his ego, have pity for the poor victim, by the way, this victim still had his right hand, and who had been so battered by his partner, which meant he just had to leave, were true. It's funny, but for a number of months I had dreams, messages, that he would show up. However, I didn't think he would be so insensitive to the boys to show up with another woman. I was their mum, after all, and they were very protective of me naturally. They had also lived the hell and knew the truth. Rob then said he had come to see the boys. Lie number 1. The way he had reversed in his car showed me that he had had no intention of seeing them, but putting the single piece of paper with his details on in the letterbox and not facing them, just scurrying off like a crafty sly fox. By doing this, he could convince himself that he had tried, and it wasn't his fault there was no contact. Hello? You have been gone over 2 years. That's called abandonment. And now you can choose to show up with your girlfriend. you also left them with someone you were telling people was crazy and violent. So, if I had ill-treated them in those 2 years, that was something you didn't give a shit about? Or was it you really knew they were safe? Don't worry, as long as you are having your needs met. I actually felt sorry for him. I said it was not my decision if they wanted to see him or not, but I will go and tell them. It's their choice. Rob was not happy that he couldn't sneak away, and he actually had to face them. Bit of karma there then. I told him he could not come through the gate, the same gate he had bullied me about once on our return to the Grand Fair. I told him he could not come through the gate. We were on lockdown and he and she had just arrived from another country looking at their car's number plate. How they were allowed into France I didn't know, but I believe they hadn't just arrived and that he had to see the boys desperately, instantly, as he was trying to make out. Lie number 2. The boys were slow in appearing. Elliot was first and he sat on the stone wall a little distance from the gate. Rob on the outside of the gates. All I heard of the conversation was that Elliot said, "You look old." I then went to talk to the person in the car. That was none of my fucking business, even though she had been brought to my house. I wanted to know who she was. We chatted and I think she said her name was Vicky, but not sure. She had known Rob before. Interesting. But they had only just met a few months before at Christmas. Now she was lying. My gut telling me a different story. Remember the obsession with his phone and not letting it out of his sight? She had been married twice and divorced twice, had some children, one also called Elliot, and that Rob needed to make amends with all his family. Rob having 3 children from his marriage before I met him. I didn't judge this woman, but I sensed she knew how to play the game, with 2 marriages behind her, looking to be in her late 40s or early 50s. She was not wet behind the ears or green at all. Her opening statement to me had been, "I know you will have bitterness towards Rob." My reply, "I am not wasting my energy being bitter towards him. I have more important things that I need my energy to go to." But Rob does have issues. He doesn't know how to love someone. I think there is so much he has never dealt with from his childhood and his marriage. He just keeps running and never deals with anything. As we continued to talk, I didn't dislike her. I suppose I was indifferent to her. A big part of me grateful that I no longer had Rob to deal with and take care of, and that I was set free. Well, I hoped he would set me free, but he was still full of anger, buried under that smirk of his. He really wanted a reaction from me, a fight, and I just wasn't giving him one. This meant he may have had a bit of explaining to do to his friend sat in the car. I wasn't the person he had lied about, but how much she would be misled would depend how far she was under his spell. I had over 2 years of not being put down, backed into a corner or shouted at, and I was starting to get rid of all those bad habits that you have to defend yourself and that become stuck to you in any false or toxic environment. Yes, I still had a lot of toxicity around me from other things, but now the home environment was slowly being cleansed. Slowly the stress, shouting and fears were no longer the norm, but dancing in the kitchen, singing, playing music and laughter being allowed, and it was slowly, very slowly, beginning to be a place that me and the boys felt happy in. Our conversation continued as Elliot continued to have his with Rob. I said to Rob's partner, "You will have been given some stories." Her reply, "There is always two who cause problems in relationships. It's never just one." I said nothing, but thought, well, you must know with 2 divorces behind you. Or is that what people lying choose to believe? If one is cheating, it's not the other's fault, but the person's cheating often projects that onto the other person to justify their actions of cheating on a decent, innocent person, so their ego-driven cheating can continue. I believe that often there is a person oblivious to the lies and sneaky behaviour, at first and often for years, who is hard working at the relationship but then gets picked on and blamed, and this could be either a woman or a man. Then the slow process of discrediting the non-cheating person begins. Instead of the sneaky person moving on from the relationship they don't want and being honest, they carry on with their side hustle. My next statement or observation was, what kind of partner leaves their partner to die on their own? Not even being at their side at their deathbed or possible deathbed. If that didn't tell someone how they are thought of, I don't know what will. Yet I still was trying to fix it all with a person who couldn't even be at my bedside in what looked like my dying hours, or embrace me and ensure me that it was all going to be all right. I then continued to say to Rob's friend, "I am happy for you both, but don't expect true love. He doesn't know what it is." Harvey was out now, so I went to the gate. Their last meeting was not good. I didn't want it to turn into anything nasty. I should have known better. Harvey wasn't going to stoop to Rob's way of dealing with things, and he calmly handed Rob a piece of paper with his number on and said, "You can contact me if you want," and returned inside. Elliot was given the one piece of paper with Rob's details on, and then Elliot went inside. I was already back talking to Rob's friend when he came back and got into the car. He said to me, "Thank you for letting me see them." I said, "It wasn't my decision, it was theirs." I also said, "I wish you both well, but Rob, you have to let go of your anger from your marriage and probably your childhood. If you want a good, loving relationship, you need to change." His reply was, "I like who I am." I replied, "Well, you keep being and acting as you have done then. But it's nobody's fault but yours, the situation with the boys. You just abandoned them." His response, "I had to look after me." I thought, yeah, it's always been all about you. When the time came when I desperately needed you and you wasn't able to take from me anymore, you ran to the hills as fast as you could. But not before trying to destroy 3 other people's lives, which, by the way, you didn't manage to do. Then I said, "You don't need to thank me for you speaking to the boys, but I sincerely wish to thank you, because for all the things you did to me, you have made me 10 times stronger than I ever was. So I thank you for that." I waved to them as they drove off. I suppose his unannounced appearance with his girlfriend upset the apple cart a little, but I was actually relieved. He didn't trigger me, a thing he thought he could still do. and that told me I was moving forwards. When someone can still make you angry, they still have some energetic connection to you. But when you are not bothered or triggered by a word or an action, you know they have no power over you anymore, and you are set free. At times you may have to cut cords as they try to reconnect that power again, but generally you are free. I felt I could be myself again, the one I liked, and the one that could move forward to a better, kinder, and more fulfilling existence. Harvey was contacted by Rob, but Elliot didn't want to phone him. He was still angry. He needed time to heal and think. I told Harvey I didn't want to know when he spoke and what they said. Just talk to me if something bothers you. He was bothered that Rob had requested him to put Elliot on the phone. My advice was, don't do that, Harvey. We have to let Elliot decide when he is ready. He has the number. Rob should be trying to build bridges with you, not using you to get to speak to Elliot. Don't be used. I didn't say anything until around May when I asked, do you still keep in contact and chat? Harvey's answer, well, he said he would phone me on my birthday, but he never did, and he hasn't contacted me since. I felt so sorry for Harvey, but didn't say anything. I thought, what a cruel game this person is playing, but it will all return and bite his butt one day. Also in March, just before the runner's return, I had to go to Andrade Fischler, Essays de Justice in New York to sign something. I naively thought at last, be a little late, I was about to get my files. You know, the ones I was lawfully entitled to. So I set off to New York again with a shopping bag to collect my documents. Oh, that's what I thought they had summoned me for. The universe again would give me a very big sign regarding the games that these enforcers of justice and the law were playing, plus their lack of integrity and client confidentiality. Isn't that another code of conduct they are supposed to uphold in this facade of justice? I arrived and entered the Essays de Justice building to be greeted by a very stern-faced typical Jobsworth receptionist. Must have been the sister to the one in the Grand Fair. I had the letter with me which had summoned me and handed it to her. She then handed me some sheets of paper and told me to sign them. I read them slowly. They were in French. Why bother giving this accused person anything that would be complying with their rights of having it in a language they could understand? We don't bother with the law unless it suits us. I then read the second copy of the same information. Didn't really understand, but I wasn't not going to carefully look at anything this unjust system was involved with. It's not as if I trusted their integrity. This really annoyed the woman, and she tried to hurry me. I took my time and ignored her. I then tried to ask if I was getting my files. I had my shopping bag ready. She did the usual thing of not understanding, but when I had to go back on another occasion, this time taking a witness, Mel, with me, who had been by my side throughout this whole charade, this woman actually spoke some English. I was trying to communicate with this non-cooperative woman when the universe brought someone to see me, the wonderful, brilliant, empathic and professional upholder of justice, Mr. Raposo. Boy, was he not happy to see me stood there. Thanks, universe. A little bit of karma, maybe. He didn't look pleased to see me, but I said bonjour and asked if he was okay in French. He was not comfortable. You could see the steam coming out of his ears as he tried to stay composed. I tried to finish my conversation, be it a one-way conversation, with the job's worth, and he decided to get involved. I told him I didn't need his sort of help and that it was no longer any of his business. He then went off on one about my files. This woman then got even cockier and more obstructive. In the end, I said to Raposo, whose agitation was becoming more visible, that it was okay. I didn't need the files. I had the power of the truth and karma. I then left. I did a quick U-turn back into the room, looking for my glasses, which were on my head. But as I re-entered the room again, Mr. Raposo was in a full-blown conversation about me and my case with this woman. I tuttered and shook my head and said, "That's not very professional. Talking about a client's case, gossiping, how very professional. What is it with these people? They come across, or pretend to, in their fancy clothes and posh language, ego and self-importance, and in reality, many of them are just so shallow and weak." We are now in lockdown. It's May 2020. My appeal date on the 25th of March cancelled. The lockdown didn't really bother me. I had put myself on lockdown about 3 years ago, when all the gossip and backstabbing started. We were okay, and my life, except not being able to go once a week to train at the gym in Poitiers, hadn't really changed. I had already decided I needed to invest in some competition weights and a bar, so I would start to look into that. I still could distance train with Danny, but no actual visits to a gym. But no problem. I was used to training on my own with limited equipment and space. I had done it at Liverpool University. I tried to find the weights on Amazon, but most of the world was now training at home, so most things had been sold out. It was sad, but also my competition in the south of France in May had been cancelled. The whole world in fear and on lockdown. This fear continued into June and July, and then the usual French holidays in August would be upon us. One of the best things I saw during this time was something sent to me showing how the wild animals of the world had claimed their planet back, walking with their families in the cities of the world. We selfishly claim this planet and ignore the rights that other creatures have to belong to it. I bet all these animals were not full of panic, stockpiling totally inflated prices of toilet paper. After searching with no luck for some weights on Amazon, I turned to Helico. Why not go for quality that the Paralympics use? I did. The quality amazing, the shipping cost very good, and the service and attention to details of packaging so high, I couldn't fault the company at all. I highly recommended them. Helico, a Swedish company, provided the powerlifting world and Olympic competitions with their high quality, sexy looking equipment. Well, it looked like that to me. I would now get to know the feel and weight of the same equipment that was used in competitions. I got on their website and they had the stuff I wanted in stock, and the delivery charge from Sweden was a good price. I made the investment. I had promised myself that I would not stop training. It's only society that ages training. As long as you are sensible, training can continue all your life, no matter your age. My order in June 2020 was an Helico XF set, a 88 kilogram men's set. This included an Olympic bar, 20 kilograms, 2 times 15 kilograms, 2 times 10 kilograms, 2 times 5 kilogram plates, with some 2.5 and 1.25 kilogram plates. I also ordered some wrist wraps. I had to get a pair, they only needed one. Stubby doesn't have a wrist. Then in July, I put another order in for 2 times 7 kilograms, 2 times 20 kilograms, and 2 times 32 kilogram dumbbells, plus a pro-resistant band and some fitness tube with PVC handles. I was now able to have good equipment at my disposal. September brought the return to lycée for Elliot and the start of a degree in philosophy for Harvey at Poitiers University. On the 2nd of September I took Harvey to the halls of residence he would be staying at to take his bedding and other stuff. We also called to see if my gym was reopened, and it was. Great, I will be back to train next week. Either every week or fortnight, I would call to briefly see Harvey and to give him some food and clean washing, bringing any washing back before heading off to the gym. That routine continued throughout September. Harvey was settled and enjoyed his degree. Elliot still at lycée doing his woodwork. There was always lots to do in the house and outside, but I still got my weekly session at the gym in Poitiers and did my 4 sessions of distance training from Danny in mine and Stubby's gym. The people at Poitiers gym were very supportive, friendly, and there was a good atmosphere. The competition I did last year in Villeneuve-d'Ascq would more than likely be cancelled, but I hoped it wouldn't. I sent my deposit off, the meals at the restaurant not allowed, but at least the competition may go ahead. I had trained in Poitiers on the Wednesday before and with the programme Danny had sent me. But as we got to October the 1st, I didn't feel well. The worrying thing was my new court date for the appeal court in Poitiers was in a week, on the 7th of October, my birthday. I couldn't decide if that was a good or bad omen, but they now had my appeal file. The appeal court could now see with the file the police photos showing the mysteriously moving and then vanishing vital evidence, the plastic wheel hub and front bumper. There was also that little matter of cause of death, alcohol and medication, plus medical records of an 85-year-old. Any judge would see that this was essential information, a lawful and necessary procedure of investigation to go through in any case, never mind one in which someone is charged with double murder. My appeal file also showing the grave mistakes of Maurice Pascal and Christopher Lindon in their reports, plus the unlawful non-preservation of evidence. The vehicles being contaminated, damaged and not preserved. On the 2nd of October 2020, in the afternoon, I received an email from Elisa Pellicer, court clerk at the appeal court in Poitiers. It stated that from the information they received on the 23rd of January 2020, let me repeat that again, on the 23rd of January 2020, and they contact me now with just over 4 days before my court date. Game still being played, but they have something up their sleeve to get around this one. Have I received a copy of procedures? They wait till now to ask me, and no doubt they won't bother to send it in my native language of English, which I have a legal right to. My answer was no. This legal document arrived by normal post on the 9th of October, 2 days after the court date. How many laws are they allowed to break or ignore? It appears as many as they like, and repeatedly. That's their scales of justice. I had felt ill on the 1st of October, but carried on. However, by the next day I was extremely ill. It was like going back to Nantes Hospital when I had the excruciating pain and diarrhea. I spent the next 4 days on the toilet with a bowl on my knee, both ends challenging my desire to live. I was not eating, barely drinking, and trying to throw the animal food in and water them before I had an accident in my pants, thinking, I wish I had some of those nappies that they had put me in at Nantes Hospital. I was so ill. Sat on the toilet, I daren't leave it. Both the vomiting as well as the diarrhea being extreme pain. A couple of times I fainted in the process, woke up on the bathroom floor, and then had to start cleaning up after myself. I really thought if I died before being able to say my piece in the appeal court, that would not be fair. But what part of the last nearly 5 years has been fair? I didn't care if I died, but if I was still alive on the 7th of October on my 56th birthday, I would be in that appeal court. I would just have to wear a pad, and if I had an accident while stood there in the courtroom, so be it. It summed up the whole situation anyway. Full of shit. But I would be there. It's time the truth got told. How bloody naive of me. Elliot never got it, so it can't have been contagious. Not that I allowed him anywhere near me, and Harvey was away at university. Maybe my intestines were blocked again. Maybe a gallstone or a kidney stone. Or maybe my body was just totally exhausted with all the shite and lies it had had to deal with in the last 4.5 years. I never called the doctor because then I wouldn't be able to go to my appeal and she probably would have sent me to hospital. By the 6th of October, I only needed the toilet once, and I managed to eat some plain rice and a slice of toast. Mel and Davina were coming with me, and Harvey was going to meet us there. I drove, I knew the route, I used it every week to get to my gym and to see Harvey at university. The girls brought me some beautiful cards and birthday gifts. A message from Davina and Warren saying, "Age doesn't matter, but friends do." They had got that one right. It really made me feel happy, even as I prepared to go to the appeal court. I had a peace within. It surely couldn't be like the 15th of April 2019. This was the appeal courts. They were used to seeing injustice and correcting them by realising the mistakes and the unlawfulness that had been served in the other court. As I drove, I spoke and told Davina some of the stuff that this so-called just system had done. Davina knew some of the story, but there were very few who did. Instead, they relied on gossip to get their information. Mel and Davina were not gossipers and very trustworthy, which is more than I could say about a lot of the people who I now have nothing to do with. Before lockdown or prison down, I had started to train Mel and Davina in Davina's small gym, and we had all bonded well. Warren, Davina's husband, and Robert, Mel's husband, were great people also. I got lots of help from them. They were my sort of people. Slowly the universe was guiding me to the right vibrating souls and allowing me to see that not all people are out to gossip, judge, or put you down, and that some do care about their fellow man. I was lucky to have them on my team, especially on this day. We got there in good time and got parked. The appeal court was massive and looked like Versailles on a smaller scale. Harvey was there. He had a lecture around 4 o'clock, so he would have to be leaving to get to that. We had to wait a while outside, but eventually we could go in with our masks on. We then had to wait outside the courtroom. There were many different ones. Raposo was there for Allianz Insurance Company, not me. He looked uncomfortable. But I had this calmness within me. I didn't need to hang my head. I knew that I'd been in a very wicked, cruel game, and the players knew deep in their beings that I had been made a scapegoat. They also knew that things had and were still hidden. Both Raposo and Geraldine Dauphine, the Dupont's solicitor, could not look at me and appeared very nervous. Something had happened to me in my accident, and throughout my traumatic journey, I just knew things. I suppose I always had from being really young, but now it was clearer. I went so much deeper. It's as if I could see a person's soul, their heart, guilt, lies, and personal sadness so clearly. They both looked hot under the collar. I watched them, and I mentally sent them forgiveness and peace, and a prayer that they would not continue down the same path in the future. But it was their decision if they wanted to continue searching for power, importance, ego and money. Their souls just couldn't or weren't allowed to see how destructive and debilitating these things are to their soul's journey. It would not be good for their souls. On this day, there was only one family member, Dominique Dupont, but another son, I think, arrived later. There were other appeals going on in the same court, and we were in and out a bit and delayed, so Harvey had to leave before it was my slot. As we waited, a woman approached me and said she was called at the last minute to replace the other translator that I had been notified of when I got the new court date, and she would be my translator. My immediate thoughts was, here we go, games again. They know I have to have a translator. My gut telling me this one did not look up to the job. Way too nervous, as if she wasn't used to being there. I had to stand in front of the 3 judges, the president, Mrs. Isabelle Lecure, and the 2 counsellors, Mrs. Delphine Rodier and Mrs. Delphine Portel. To the left was the public prosecutor, Mrs. de la Landelle, to debate Mr. Hervé Devar's delivery, Geraldine Dauphine to the left also, Hugo Raposo there for Allianz to the right. My interpreter wasn't even registered with the court, so I had to take an oath before the court. So my gut was on point again, and she didn't fail to prove why she was not registered. It's just part of the game. Silence the person, but do it so it appears to be within the law. This was further demonstrated to me when one of the 3 judges sat in front of me asked if I had seen and received all the information and was I happy to continue and ready to continue. I received nothing, but I said I was happy to continue because I knew my appeal file had been received because I had got it confirmed by AR signed for and received notification back in January 2020. I did not know at this point that they hadn't been given my appeal file. I was well prepared in what I wanted to say, but this woman I had been given to translate for me didn't install much confidence in me. After hearing her as she said her oath before the court, I was now going to be thrown to the lions again. I was asked lots of questions by these 3 judges, both the French and the English giving my translator problems, and the 3 judges had to repeat themselves to her a number of times. What chance did I have? It was as if I would not be allowed to say what had never been said, but on paper they had looked to have followed all the rules. Having someone by your side who couldn't do the job, and she started getting mad at me? I would have been better trying to tell them in French myself. At least I understood the English part of it. Then it was Madame Landel, the prosecutor's turn to interrogate me, and she was not nice. It was so hard with the translator I had been given to even understand what she wanted. She was pushing and pushing the overtaking, the obviously important thing they had to find me guilty of in order to scapegoat me for the deaths. I was under the impression that they had all seen and taken the time to look at my file. I was trying to tell her that police photos clearly showed the wheel hub on the left back wheel, not right back wheel. And then, by the 28th of April 2016, the wheel hub was then on the right back wheel, according to Maurice Pascal. Then that and the front bumper vanished by March 2017, so no one else was able to analyse them. In the end, I had to walk over and show her the photos. I will never, ever forget the look on that woman's face. This vicious, clever, probably well-experienced prosecutor had a look of horror, a disbelief in what was there in front of her eyes. There was no denying the fact, and these were police photos. One of the photos still had me trapped in the car, but she still dismissed it and carried on with her vicious interrogation and attack. At one point she said, "So are you saying that someone took the wheel hub from the left and put it on the right?" I said, "Yes." I thought, well, it couldn't have bloody moved itself. And you are thinking that too, but you're still going to have me. I was standing, having to look at this black insignia in front of me of the scales of justice in perfect balance. That's funny. Here I am, presenting police evidence, and they just ignore it. How balanced is that? They seem to all piss in the same pot, even in the appeal court. I was then told to sit down, and now the frustrated Geraldine Duffine, just like Scarlett in Gone with the Wind, she was about to put on a performance. She began to give her performance of personally attacking me and my character. Not that I could understand much. The woman sat next to me, supposedly translating, shushed me when I asked what she was saying in her dramatic performance. Then Raposo spoke for Allianz Insurance Company, saying how the company couldn't keep paying money out, agreeing with me being guilty. So please don't believe all the expensive advertising and PR stunts they give. They have money for that, but not a client wrongly charged with double murder. They couldn't even find me an English-speaking solicitor. Ironically enough, you will find Allianz's logo on the sponsor board at the Paralympics. Wonder how much that costs in sponsorship. You would do more good looking after your clients that have become disabled through no fault of their own, exposing the truth instead of pretending that you actually care about a disabled person. I would welcome and invite you to explain. It would be nice to hear the reason your duty of care was so, shall I say, bad for one of your policyholders, now a disabled one. Then I was invited to speak, which lasted all of 10 minutes before the whole charade was brought to a close. I got to say nothing. I then asked if they had seen my file. They didn't know what I was referring to when I tried to explain the pieces I had sent. I walked over to the judges to show them my file, the one I knew they had received in January 2020. The judges had never seen it. See how the game continues and is played out? They had that file since January 2020. It was now October 2020. Who signed for it? Who had hidden it? Maybe it had been conveniently lost in this expensive bureaucracy of bullshit. The judge concluded that they would make their decision at a later date, and we were to return on the 23rd of November 2020. I never got the pleasure of being back in front of the insignia of the balanced scales of justice, which they have all over the place in these so-called establishments of justice. Maybe their scales are balanced with lies, cover-ups, loss of vital evidence, targeting the vulnerable and not seeking the truth. It's been the same throughout history, but now they add insult to injury by pretending every person has the same rights in this system. In my experience, nothing could be further from the truth. In fact, the little factor of truth is often extinct, whitewashed, ignored, avoided, camouflaged, hidden, and purposely sabotaged to allow this justice system to function the way they dictate it should. Honesty, integrity, and humanity not being part of this somewhat corrupt, elitist bullshit circus. The second bout of lockdowns resulted in my sentence being posted, with no security or signed for. How do they know I even received it? The information again violating my rights to understand because it was in French with no copy in English. There were a few lines saying a translated copy would follow. By this time I had begun this book and was writing about my life and what I had achieved. This gave me the courage and confirmation that I wasn't the person that all these people and establishments had tried to portray me as, even though they didn't bother to find out anything about who I really was. I had never before in my life ever thought or wanted to write a book. Who wanted or would be interested in what I had to say? But even when in the ICU, guidance was given to me to get a dictaphone. I then, believing it was more to say goodbye as I left this world. Slowly, its true purpose would be revealed, but as I spoke into it, I did not realise what lay ahead. Now I see the true need to document my journey and print it. Maybe I can help others in their struggles with disabilities and not being believed. I had to be me again and not give anyone the power to turn me into someone I wasn't. I now needed to work and turn to my heart, soul and spirit to heal myself and take out all those swords that had been stabbed in my back, left there, often twisted by the placer to give constant pain, fester and to become infected. I was to carry these swords with me for the rest of my life because others had decided to stab them there without just cause or reason. I now needed to get physically, mentally and spiritually strong in order to remove them. I now had a small insight to my purpose of having to go through this and getting to this point. Enduring this dark, difficult, lonely and cruel path. I had to dedicate the rest of my time in this human existence to making things better, showing others that they can overcome the injustice and pain that has been forced onto them. Now being disabled, I would encourage and help others to see their worth and to be proud of who they were, not to become what circumstances and people have made them think they were. We are all worthy of honesty, love and inner peace. It's what our souls needs to continue to breathe. End of chapter. Chapter 36. The Sentence. Although I am a typical loner in daily life, my consciousness of belonging to the invisible community of those who strive for truth, beauty and justice has preserved me from feeling isolated. Albert Einstein. Today is the 29th of November 2020. I am writing this to document how I feel regarding the sentence from the appeal court in Poitiers, France. On the 26th of November 2020, by regular post, no security or sign for posting, I received a large brown envelope. I knew it was from the court because it had the address on the envelope. I thought it was thick and I guessed it was my plastic file, which I sent by secure sign for post on the 23rd of January 2020. The file was evidence and information, vital information, to the truth of the circumstances of the accident. It included information that had never been brought forward, not even by my Allianz insurance solicitor, Raposo, who I had given the information to. He dismissed it. Having this file returned to me, I found a bit odd. For at my appeal on the 7th of October 2020, Judge Isabelle Lacroix, Delphine Rodier and Delphine Portel said they had never seen my file when I stood in front of them and showed it to them. This mysterious loss of my file goes hand in hand with the mysterious loss of my wheel hub and the other car's front bumper. Yes, a real size front bumper, lost from a place the cars were supposed to be stored for safety, security and an uncontaminated environment in order to preserve the evidence. How do you get that in your pocket and leave the garage without anyone seeing it? Don't forget that these were the two vital car parts that were the only evidence used to sentence me for double murder. And they vanish? How very convenient. I opened the envelope. Yes, it was my file. They did have it, yet the judge had said they had never seen it before. For some reason, this vital information never got to be seen in my case, in which I was being charged for killing 2 people. Is this big, powerful, expensive system so incompetent that they can't manage to get a file to the correct place? Or did they fear the truth being exposed? I will let the reader decide that one. Also in the envelope was the judge's decision, all in French. No translated copy in English. Even the appeal court ignores my human rights. There was a badly written sentence in English from the clerk stating that the sentence in English will be sent soon. It has still not arrived. If they send it by normal post, how will they know it's arrived and that I have actually got it? Not that they care about that or my rights. So I think that the French document says I am found guilty of causing the accident and causing the death of 2 people. The sentence was reduced from an 18-month driving ban, cancellation of my driving licence, and having to do a driving test again, to a 12-month suspension of my driving licence. Remember, I had been driving since November 2017 when I passed my driving test in an adapted car with one hand, and have not had one issue. But now, 3 years later, I was such a risk to society, and don't forget the word aggressive, that I was now banned from driving. Yet, be 85 years old, and you are not even tested to see if you are even capable of driving due to the natural reduction in ability to do so, due to the aging process, and the usual prescribed medication that brings. They also gave me a 3-year suspended prison sentence. Wonder why they didn't send me to prison. Was that because I was being framed and they acted unlawfully? Blaming me for the deaths of 2 people when they never bothered to investigate what they died from? Surely an autopsy vital and the only lawful way to conclude the cause of death. If I am guilty of killing 2 people as your justice system says I am, then I deserve to go to prison, surely. Send me. I don't fear your man-made prison, and I will not fall prey to the mental and spiritual prison you desperately tried to force me into. I am not mental, not aggressive, and not crazy. I am honest, and you never destroyed my soul. But quoting William Ernstine Henley from Invictus, it matters not how strait the gate, how charged with punishment the scroll. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. My feelings, disappointment in the lack of honesty of the whole system. They basically use gossip and very questionable information to come to their conclusion. This questionable, powerful system may be able to stop some of my freedoms, but they can't stop me writing. My true judgment or sentence will be given by a much more powerful, honest and real environment, the universe. I write with integrity, truth and love. That's all this world needs to put an end to the corruption, lies, cruelty and greed that we are all forced to be surrounded by. The power of the universe has our backs, and our new decade will see the mighty fall, then allowing the return of balance and love for our souls. I am not angry with those in my case who chose to walk down the path of dishonesty and manipulation for the sake of their egos. Their own private sentence will be served to them at some time by the universe. There is a cleansing happening to our planet, which will result in a loving, kind, peaceful, honest and real life for all of us to be part of on this beautiful planet once we let go of fear and replace it with love. I send love to all those involved, and I continue the journey of my soul, stronger and wiser for my challenges. It has enabled me to continue my journey with love, peace, and my integrity intact. End of chapter. Chapter 37. Closure, handing it over to the people's justice and the universe. The truth is like a lion. You don't have to defend it. Let it loose and it will defend itself. Saint Augustine. I continued to write hours and hours a day. It was a time of cold, dark nights and no demands from the garden. I had lots of jobs in the house, big cleaning and sorting jobs, but that I could catch up with once I got this book finished. I gave myself until the end of February, then the end of March, and then it continued into April. But in April 2021, I had finished. There still remained the editing, the organising and the massive task of typing it up, and hopefully I would get help with that. The only thing that happened from January to April 2021 regarding the court case was 3 police officers arriving unannounced to take my driving licence. But I said I needed the paper they wanted me to sign translated before I would sign it. The date of their arrival being the 20th of February 2021. I spoke with them and said if they would let Harvey translate it, then I would know what I was signing. I had been forced to sign papers I didn't understand twice before. I wasn't going to do it a third time. By the way, these officers were from the Coulon station, the same one that refused me my right to make a complaint. I tried to see the sheet, but the police officer wouldn't let me see it. He also had the bottom corner bent over, which I thought odd. We went out to the police car where his boss and a female officer were sat waiting. The officer who came to the door saying he would have to speak to his boss. The boss said, "We will just go back and say she has refused to sign it." I said, "You can't say that." I have a witness, pointing at Harvey, and I am not refusing to sign it. I want to be able to understand it before I sign it. It's one of my basic human rights. The boss then said, "You have no rights. You are in France." I thought to myself, you've got that fucking right. I went on to say, I only need 10 minutes for Harvey to translate it. His response, "No, we have an emergency. We can't wait." I thought, yeah, donuts. "Well, come back then," I suggested. "No, you will have to come down to the police station in Coulanges and we will get a translator," he concluded. Right, I thought, but I will have my own translator, Harvey, with me. The boss went on to say, "We will phone you to let you know when. It's now the middle of April and there has been no contact. What games were they trying to pull again?" As I put the last few pages to this book, I hope and pray for closure. It is not my intention to forget all that was done to me, but for my own health and healing, I forgive those involved. I also hope those involved find closure, but in order to, they need to admit the truth, if not to others, then at least to themselves. They can choose to continue to blame me. After all, this very just French system says it was me. But they know the hidden truths. I may only have my integrity and honesty, but by having that, the universe guided me to the truth that was being hidden. I have no anger or judgment of what was done to me, but I have disappointment in how people in certain positions can misuse their position. I do not know what they intend to gain, but I do know they eventually gain a deep illness of their souls. One of the biggest lessons given to me was that you need to give yourself protection so that others can't attach their negative energies to you, for many will try. My choice a long time ago was not to hold on to the injustice of my journey, instead handing it over to a much more just and honest energy that will always deliver the last and final verdict. That is the power of the people's justice and the power of the universe. This has been my truth. I invite you to make what you will out of my words. On this journey, I've been given a gift to not be affected by what others think of me. Reactions cannot affect truth. A truth can never be a lie. I send you all love, peace, and the will to carry on your amazing soul's journey with love and integrity. Do not sacrifice your own soul to please others. Be your authentic self. Our soul is a gift given to us, and we must love and nurture it. Forgiveness of others is one way of keeping your soul loving. When your soul is loved, it protects you from harm and soulless people. I, my soul, and Stubby, thank you for taking the time to read about our journey. A soulful love is sent to you all. Love is all there is, and all there needs to be. In this closing chapter, I would like to share with you writings that I did throughout this period of my life, plus some poems, quotes, books, and a list of my songs on my USB. All of these offering me guidance, direction, realization, and hope. I was strengthened by them, and they really made me think about the challenges I had to face. They allowed me to pause, breathe, and have faith when I believed there wasn't any. I was often awoken in the early hours, compelled to put pen to paper. I would like to share these messages with you. Thank you all for reading mine and Stubby's story. Messages. I can't remember the date for this message, but it was in the first half of 2020. If you don't fear death, you will give yourself permission to live. The key is getting to a place of inner peace within your soul, which allows you to be the best version of yourself. This may not come until you have experienced darkness, pain, and many fears, but it is necessary for these to strengthen you and prepare you for the peace and love that is waiting for you. All you have to do is see the beauty within, which exists in every single human soul. Penny Walker. This one I wrote on the 29th of the 4th, 2020. One force has the power to control the whole world, which means that the force in control is able to manipulate all actions that go on in the world. Famine, poverty, wars, money, disease, hatred, killings, cruelty, and greed. What it can't control is unconditional love that each and every spirit and soul has the capability and possibility of giving when they escape the force's power. Love is all there is and all that is needed for planet Earth. Penny Walker. The Soul's Journey, 7th of the 5th, 2020. When a human arrives on this planet, its being is filled with two elements, a soul and a spirit. The soul is pure love. The spirit is the knowing. Within hours, these tiny elements crave human stimulation to survive. Food, water, warmth, protection, contact, and love. The human timescale passes, and the spirit and its knowing becomes confused and doubting. The soul becomes lost and unloving, but keeps trying to shine its love into the world around it, only to be rejected, judged, laughed at, and abused. In time, the soul becomes buried under the human's life experience, struggling to breathe, not being shown and never being listened to or heard. The knowledge the spirit once had is replaced by a doctrine from its external influences, which slowly suffocates it, so it finds it hard to breathe, and very slowly it dies. The beautiful light and love the soul once beamed out is put into darkness, and love is replaced by fear. Now the human being can conform and be accepted on the planet where it exists. Its existence now is for growing, achieving, and accumulating all that its planet says it is due. The only charge is to sacrifice its spirit and soul. As the spirit and soul slowly dies, they leave behind a tiny seed of hope and a purity which some beings discover after the planet they live on just knocks them down once too often. Then their spirit starts to open and they get guidance and support from a pure and loving energy, and their spiritual knowledge starts to be awakened once again. The soul, still very much dead and lifeless, starts to receive healing from its spirit and recovery begins. It is very slow, and outside energies constantly sabotage its progress. Then the spirit realizes that the only thing the soul needs to grow and become stronger is love. That is because that's all there really is and all there really was the moment the soul entered the human body. The spirit and the soul, now reunited, grow together, and love pours out of them into the environment around them, bringing peace to the human. Fear no longer exists for the human, and the human's soul journey can begin. Penny Walker. A message from Spirit about letting go. 4th of the 6th, 2020. You need to move to bring in brighter days. Look up to the sky, for you are soon about to fly. The love you deserve is about to explode if you stop thinking and looking at the old. Be strong, move on, and bring joy and peace into your world. We have a lot of love to let your soul unfold. Penny Walker. To see, 19th of the 8th, 2020. To allow yourself to see, there are a number of things that must no longer be. Television, radio, and magazines too. Cloud your mind and vision, blocking the divine truth. Open your being with the things that are true, the light and the dark, and believing in you. Do not imprison your thoughts and your mind in a world that is cruel and so very unkind. The world has been tortured in cruelty and pain, just for a few to make their gain. But all is not lost, and soon it will be free, because the universe can rely on you and me. With love, honesty, and happiness from you, this world will blossom and become divinely true. Penny Walker. June or July 2020. Fill your soul with love. Feed it with hope and faith. Believe in its strength, and love will never fade. Know that anger, disappointment and fear cripples the soul's atmosphere, leaving it empty and all alone, never able to thrive and to be known. So give your soul the love it desires, then your heart will expand and be inspired. Then with hope, peace and love within, the true meaning of your life will begin. Penny Walker. Poems and quotes that kept me sane. Invectus, William Ernest Henley. Out of the night that covers me, black as the pit from pole to pole, I thank whatever gods may be for my unconquerable soul. In the fell clutches of circumstances, I have not winced nor cried aloud. Under the bulgingings of chance, my head is bloody but unbowed. Beyond this place of wrath and tears looms but the horror of the shade, and yet the menace of the years finds and shall find me unafraid. It matters not how strait the gate, how charged with punishments the scroll. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. The Proof of Worth. Edgar Albert Guest. Though victory's proof of the skill you possess, defeat is the proof of your grit. A weakling can smile in these days of success, but at trouble's first sign he will quit. So the test of the heart and the test of your pluck isn't skies that are sunny and fair, but how do you stand to the blow that is struck, and how do you battle despair? A fool can seem wise when the pathway is clear, and it's easy to see the way out, but the test of a man's judgment is something to fear, and what does he do when in doubt? And the proof of his faith is the courage he shows when sorrow lies deep in his breast. It's the way that he suffers, the grief that he will bear, for a cause which he knows to be right. And how long will he suffer and fight? There are many to serve when the victory's near, and few are the hurts to be borne, but it calls for a leader of courage to cheer the man in a battle forlorn. It's the way you hold out against odds that are great that proves what your courage is worth. It's the way that you stand to the bruises of fate that shows up your stature and girth. And victory's nothing but proof of your skill, veneered with a glory that's thin, unless it is proof of unfaltering will, and unless you have suffered to win. The Victor, C. Longencare. If you think you are beaten, you are. If you think you dare not, you don't. If you like to win but think you can't, it's almost a cinch that you won't. If you think you'll lose, you're lost. For out in the world we find success begins with a fellow's will. It's all in the state of the mind. If you are outclassed, you are. You've got to think high to rise. You've got to be sure of yourself before you can ever win the prize. Life's battles don't always go to the stronger or faster man, but sooner or later the man who wins is the man who thinks he can. The Man in the Glass, Peter Dale Wimbrough. When you get what you want in your struggle for self, and the world makes you king for a day, just go to the mirror and look at yourself and see what that man has to say. For it isn't your father or mother or wife whose judgment upon you must pass. The fellow whose verdict counts most in your life is the one staring back from the glass. He's the fella to please, never mind all the rest, for he's with you clear to the end, and you have passed your most difficult, dangerous test if the man in the glass is your friend. You may fool the whole world down the pathway of years and get pats on the back as you pass, but your final reward will be heartache and tears if you've cheated the man in the glass. Quotes. There is no perfect time, no perfect opportunity, no perfect situation, no perfect moment. You either make it happen or you don't. Matty Rogers. When I train, I raise all the limits and expectations of what I can do. I am powerful and anything is possible. Camille Leblanche Bazinet. It's not the will to win that matters. Everyone has that. It's the will to prepare to win that matters. Bear Bryant. Impossible isn't a fact. It's an opinion. Things are impossible until someone does it. Carl Jung. If you don't know where you are going, You don't know what it takes to get there. Carl Jung. Thinking is difficult. That's why most people judge. Carl Jung. That which does not kill me makes me stronger. Friedrich Nietzsche. To live is to suffer. To survive is to find some meaning in the suffering. Friedrich Nietzsche. Anything that costs you your peace is too expensive. Learn to let it go. Ralph Marston. Love is the absence of fear. Evil is the absence of love. Ralph Marston. Happiness is a choice, not a result. Nothing will make you happy until you choose to be happy. No person will make you happy unless you decide to be happy. Your happiness will not come to you. It can only come from you. Ralph Marston. When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. Viktor Frankl. The biggest coward is a man who awakes a woman's love with no intention of loving her. Bob Marley. You can't do in a lift what you haven't prepared for. Penny Walker. My attitude is that if you push me towards something that you think is a weakness, then I will turn that perceived weakness into a strength. Michael Jordan. Every session I try and improve to set myself up better in the long run. Unknown. I hated every minute of training, but I said, don't quit. Suffer now and then live the rest of your life as a champion. Muhammad Ali. There is an old saying, a champion is someone who is willing to be uncomfortable. Unknown. The key to immortality is first living a life worth remembering. Bruce Lee. Hard work and training. There's no secret formula. I lift heavy, work hard, and aim to be the best. Ronnie Coleman. I like to see people doubt me. Sherry Swartz. You have to do something in your life that is honourable and not cowardly if you are to live in peace with yourself. Larry Brown. Buddha quotes. If people don't make an effort to be in your life, don't try so hard to be in theirs. It's not worth it. When someone leaves, it's because someone else is about to arrive. Better to be slapped with a truth than kissed with a lie. Always be in love with a soul, not a face. Beautiful people are not always good, but good people are always beautiful. Love is not what you say, but what you do. Success isn't the key to happiness. Happiness is the key to success. Freedom comes when you stop caring about what others think of you. Stop expecting loyalty from people who can't even give you honesty. The best revenge is to improve yourself. You don't need someone to complete you. You only need someone to accept you completely. A beautiful face means nothing when the heart is ugly. Everyone is trying to find the right person, but nobody is trying to be the right person. Don't choose to love the most beautiful person in the world. Choose to love the one who makes your world beautiful. A real man doesn't love a million girls. He loves one girl in a million ways. Books. The Power of Positive Thinking, Norman Vincent Peale. Stay Alive or Your Life, Norman Vincent Peale. How I Became the Fittest Woman on Earth, Tia Claire Toomey. Start Your Engines, My Unstoppable CrossFit Journey, Sam Briggs. Deuter, My Journey to Becoming a 2-time CrossFit Games Champion, Katrine Deversdorter. Meat Rat Boy, Michael Tarragon. A Hard Road to Travel, Michael Tarragon. The Prophet, Kahil Gibran. Flip It, Michael Eppenpale. Just a Boy, Richard McCain. The Boy Grows Up, Richard McCain. The Hospital, Barbara O'Hare. Silent Sisters, Joanne Lee, with Anne and Joe Cusack. Shine On, David Ditchfield and J.S. Jones. The Convent, Marie Hargreaves, with Anne and Joe Cusack. Chariots of the Gods, Eric von Dankar. My USB Songs. Imagine, John Lennon. Mustang Sally, The Commitments. Creep, Radiohead. So Love, David Bowie. November Rain, Guns N' Roses. Rock and Roll Suicide, David Bowie. Oh, You Pretty Thing, David Bowie. One More Try, George Michael. Paradise City, Guns N' Roses. A Change Is Gonna Come, Sam Cooke. Photograph, Nickelback. A Girl Like You, Edwyn Collins. Reminds Me of Silverstone F1. Personal Jesus, Depeche Mode. Don't Give Up, Peter Gabriel, Kate Bush. Under, Alex Hepburn. Brain Damage, Eclipse, Pink Floyd. All Cried Out, Alison Moyet. I changed this to All Caught Out and dedicated it to my ex-partner. Because the Night, Patti Smith. One of my posing songs for my bodybuilding competitions. Invisible, Alison Moyet. Love Resurrection, Alison Moyet. Get Up, Stand Up, Bob Marley. The song given to me just after being charged with double murder. Wish You Were Here, Pink Floyd. Proud Mary, Tina Turner. Purple Rain, Prince. All I Wanna Do Is Make Love to You, Heart. Don't Let the Sun Go Down on Me, George Michael and Elton John. Amazing Grace, Elvis Presley. I love this, and later realised Mark Burgess had the hymn version at his funeral. Angie, The Rolling Stones. Another Day in Paradise, Phil Collins. Another One Bites the Dust, Queen. SOS, Dun Terrain en Distress, Gregory LaMarchelle. Living on My Own, Queen. Under Pressure, Queen, and David Bowie. Rebel Yell, Billy Idol. Never Gonna Give You Up, Rick Astley. Angels, Robbie Williams. Always Remember Us This Way, Lady Gaga. Babe, Take That. Rockstar, Nickelback. Woman in Love, Barbra Streisand. Wind Beneath My Wings, Bette Midler. Bittersweet Symphony, The Verb. Romeo and Juliet, Dire Straits. Ruby, Don't Take Your Love to Town, Kenny Rogers. Running Away, Bob Marley and the Wailers. Shape of My Heart, Sting. Blasphemy, Robbie Williams. Unstoppable, Shan, Stubby's Training Song. Blaze of Glory, Bon Jovi. Bed of Roses, Bon Jovi. Wanted, Dead or Alive, Bon Jovi. Shine On You Crazy Diamond, Pink Floyd. Simple Man, Leonard Skynyrd. When I Was Your Man, Bruno Mars. Believe, Cher. Gold, Spandau Ballet. Gonna Fly Now, Billy Conti. The Exodus Song, Pat Boone. Johnny B. Good, Chuck Berry. I Remember Damon Hill's version at Silverstone. Civil War, Guns N' Roses. Don't Cry, Guns N' Roses. A Song from the Tank. Eye of the Tiger, Survivor. Song on the radio when I took my first steps. Sweet Child of Mine, Guns N' Roses. Comfortably Numb, Pink Floyd. Don't Stop Me Now, Queen. The song for my first para powerlifting competition. The Wonder of You, Elvis Presley. The House of the Rising Sun, The Animals. Hotel California, The Eagles. If I Can Dream, Elvis Presley. In the Ghetto, Elvis Presley. Bridge Over Troubled Waters, Elvis Presley. If I Am a Fool for Loving You, Elvis Presley. My Way, Elvis Presley. I did throughout my journey keep true to who I am. It also reminds me of F1 Suzuka, Japan. The Show Must Go On, Queen. My I See You Song. Three Little Birds, Bob Marley and the Wailers. Loved Walked In, Thunder. The Best, Tina Turner, Dembo's Song. Unchain My Heart, Joe Cocker. Wake Me Up Before You Go Go, Wham. We Are the Champions, Queen. Dedicated to all the disabled people in the world. What About Love, Heart. When I Fall in Love, Nat King Cole. Suspicious Minds, Elvis Presley. Unchained Melody, Elvis Presley. A Song for the Tank. Can't Help Falling in Love, Elvis Presley. Always on My Mind, Elvis Presley. A Song for the Tank. A Little Respect, Erasure. Piece of My Heart, Emran Franklin. Everyone Hurts, R.E.M. Princess Diana's Song. Feel, Robbie Williams. Parisian Walkways, Gary Moore. Here I go again, White Snake, sums up my journey. I hear you knocking, David Edmonds. I am your man, Seal. I want to break free, Queen. I want to know what love is, Foreigner. In the air tonight, Phil Collins. It's a man's world, James Brown. Cry to me, Jimmy Barnes. Stone Cold, Jimmy Barnes. White Wedding, Billy Idol. Who wants to live forever, Queen. Why does my heart feel so bad, Mobay. Wicked Game, Chris Azak. Wonderful Tonight, Eric Clapton. Reminds me of Liverpool University. Would I lie to you, Charles and Eddie? You can leave your hat on, Joe Cocker. You gave me a mountain, Elvis Presley. This song helped me to climb them. Young Lust, Pink Floyd. You're beautiful, James Blunt. You're so vain, Carly Simon. You're in my heart, Rod Stewart. Where no one stands alone, Elvis Presley. Private Investigation, Dire Straits. Hurt, Elvis Presley. Sunshine on My Shoulders, John Denver. Just Pretend, Elvis Presley. Take Me Home, Country Roads, John Denver. Piece by Piece, Kelly Clarkson. Dedicated to my sons. Knocking on Heaven's Door, Guns N' Roses. Let It Be, The Beatles. Listen to Your Heart, Rosette. What a Wonderful World, Louis Armstrong. The Power of Love, Frankie Goes to Hollywood. No Regrets, Edith Piaf. This reminds me of leaving the Grand Fair. Nessun Dorma, Pavarotti. For the strength of character of my dad. Love's Divine, Seal. Lucille, Kenny Rogers. Working Class Man, Jimmy Barnes. Driving Wheels, Jimmy Barnes. Where Do I Begin, Shirley Bassey. Song for Mum and Dad. Money, Pink Floyd. Mother, Pink Floyd. Nothing Compares to You, Sinead O'Connor. Baby, What Do You Want Me to Do? Elvis Presley, 68 Comeback. And I Love You So, Elvis Presley. This song is for the entities, energies, and the guardian angels that allowed me to survive and guided me to the truth and love. Baby Can I Hold You, Tracy Chapman. No Woman No Cry, Bob Marley. Thunderclouds, LSD. Human, Rag and Bone Man. My Song for the Justice System. All You Need Is Love, The Beatles. You Took the Words Right Out of My Mouth, Meatloaf. You Always Find Me in the Kitchen at Parties. Man Like Me. Jar of Hearts, Christina Perry. What's Up, Four Non-Blondes. Smile, Andre Rieu and Jeremy Jackson. One of my dad's favourite songs. End of chapter. I would like to end this book with a few pages about my dad The Tank. The Tank. It's the 29th of June 2021, 11:08 a.m. English time, the day of my dad's funeral. Due to restrictions, I could not go to St Michael's and All Angels Church, Thornell, at 10:30 a.m. English time to say my goodbyes. But I was blessed to have others going in my place. Johnny Arpin, a fellow rugby player and Tank's friend, and Kane Dembo, who knew my dad and went to represent me as well. I asked Kay if they could take a rose from their garden that I had sent them as a plant a couple of years before called Nostalgia to give to my dad and mum. Mum had been patiently waiting for the love of her life so they could be united again in a place of peace and unity at Thornell Church. As the time approached 10:30 English time, 11:30 for me here in France, I took my photo of my mum and dad, which was on my phone, outside into the garden so I could be with them. Dad having worked in the garden for me, my mum loving it too. I closed my eyes and watched the funeral through my imagination/third eye. I could see the people arriving and entering the church. I then played on my phone Smile, the version by Andre Rieu and Jermaine Jackson. Seeing in my mind my dad's coffin going down the church aisle, a church I'd spent a lot of time in my younger years. The image clear and real in my mind. Though being overcome by emotion and tears, I spoke with my mum and dad and told them I would smile and knew they would be by my side, guiding me, healing me and watching over me. Then the heavens opened for 10 minutes, a torrential downpour. I stood in the doorway, the rain pouring into the entrance, but I had to be connected to the outside, the universe. I then played a Shirley Bassey song, Where Do I Begin?, as I imagined the coffin being taken out of the church to its final resting place. This song being for the both of them, and how I would remember them. The rain suddenly stopped and the sun came out. I let all my emotion out and said my goodbyes and played Pavarotti singing Nessun Dorma. This strong voice and figure of a man, Pavarotti, reminded me of my dad's strength and personality. I know through the journey I went through that all is good. They have no pain, upset, disease or anger. Just pure love, forgiveness for themselves and for all. Their loving energy always there for me and anyone else to access. Dad confirmed this the moment he left his overcoat behind in the early hours of the 15th of June 2021. I had phoned Croft House in Cleckheaton and a beautiful kind lady answered with the soul of an angel and allowed me to say goodbye to my dad and also for him to hear his grandsons Harvey and Elliot's voices say goodbye too. As I spoke to my dad, I told him it's okay. Go now. It will be all right. And he can visit me any time and help me in my garden. I told him, just as he had phoned me in hospital in May 2016 and said how proud he was of me for being so strong. I told him I was so proud of him for being so strong now. But could he make me even more proud? But I let him go, for he has done all he was meant to do. And now he can leave his overcoat behind and go to a peaceful place with Mum, all his friends like Bobby and his family who will be there for him. The lovely lady said, "He's raising his eyebrows. He hears you." I will be forever grateful to that beautiful soul who gave me a chance to say goodbye. Unable to sleep that night, I played some of my dad's favourite songs, one being Smile. At 2:12 a.m. French time, I made a cup of tea and went outside. It was warm and the sky a mass of stars. I looked up and asked if my dad would let me know when he had gone. "Give me a sign, Dad." "How about a shooting star?" I had never seen one. I came back inside and tried to sleep. At about 3 a.m. French time, 2ish English time, my phone rang. It was my sister Caroline, who had been by his side. My dad had left the building, his overcoat left behind. The connection on the phone wasn't good and we got cut off. I moved to the side of the house. I was outside and phoned back. Peter, my sister's boyfriend, who had been amazing at keeping me informed throughout my mum and dad's last few years, answered. As I emotionally talked to him, the most clear and defined shooting star went flying past. I said to Peter, "He has gone. I've just seen him going flying across the sky. He's probably looking for a rugby pitch." "Thanks, Dad. I know you visit me as a robin, sitting on the garden fence, and you bring Mum with you as you are two dancing butterflies. Love to you both. I know you both have peace and love, and the energies of the universe at your disposal now. Until we meet again, I will be grateful, content, and blessed to tap into your soul's energy for guidance and love. I already feel and see you. Thank you. A soulful love is sent to you every day. Your loving daughter, Penny. P.S. You sent me 5 shooting stars the other day. Now that's just showing off. Thank you for showing Elliot one too, though I'm not sure he believes it's you, but I do. I wish to thank all the kind messages that were given and for all who went to say goodbye to Tank. I am so pleased that my mum is reunited with my dad. She was left alone for a while, waiting, but she's now in the place she should be with Dad. Kay was able to put the rose nostalgia onto the coffin for my mum and Dad, so I felt my love and energy was with them. The following days were a roller coaster of emotions. My dad's photo by my side. Again the universe sent me messages and signs. The robin Dad and I talked about weeks before he left his overcoat behind. Visits and stares through my kitchen window. I don't normally see the robins in summer, but I do now. I was also given messages from songs. Guns N' Roses, Don't Cry. I feel that was from Dad, to all his children and grandchildren. And 2 Elvis songs, Always on My Mind. I think we would both sing that to each other. An Unchained Melody, a song expressing a deep emotional loss and a deep love, but a love that wouldn't and couldn't ever die. As the days passed, I allowed myself to smile and tapped into Dad's energy. I feel him everywhere, by my side, guiding me, strengthening me, and protecting me, just as he had always done. He's now back in the gym with me, a thing we did back in the late 1980s and 90s, inspiring me, encouraging me, and assisting me with each rep I do. Our loved ones are very much still alive, but we can only reach them if we accept that they have moved on to the next phase of their soul's journey. We should be happy and excited for them to reach that point in their journey, and with divine timing we all will get there as one beautiful, harmonious, peaceful and loving, soulful energy. End of the book. Thank you.